Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 11th, 2023 Arlington County Board of Zoning Appeals. We are now in session. Good evening and welcome again. I'm Richard Kaplan, Chair of the Board of Zoning Appeals. The board is made up of 5 citizens appointed by the Circuit Court. In addition to myself, we have Vice Chair Inta Malice. Joining us virtually, we have Judy Freshman. Joining us in the room, we have Portia Clark. And joining us virtually, we have Lindsay Arthurs. Also present is the professional staff, including Blake Bowen, Board of Zoning Appeals Coordinator, Meg Ryan, BZA Associate Planner, Brett Goldberg, BZA Associate Planner. We thank you for being here and extend a warm welcome. To avoid disruptions, we ask that you please place your mobile devices in silent mode. Before we begin tonight's hearing, I will discuss this board's powers and procedures for tonight's hearing. The board's powers are prescribed in the Code of Virginia and are set forth in further detail in the county zoning ordinance adopted by the county board. The Board of Zoning Appeals does not have the power to rezone property or to amend the regulations set forth in the ordinance. That authority rests solely with the county board. This board does have the authority to do 3 things. First, the BZA can approve use permits that allow modifications of placement requirements for structures on 1- and 2-family lots where there is no option in the zoning ordinance to allow such modifications. In order to approve a use permit, the Arlington zoning ordinance requires that this board find that the proposal will not adversely affect the health or safety of persons residing in the neighborhood, will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property or improvements in the neighborhood, and will not be in conflict with the purposes of the master plans and land use and zoning related policies of the county. In making these findings, the BZA shall consider whether the modification will promote compatibility of the development with the surrounding neighborhood because of the structure's overall size, footprint, and placement are similar to those of the structures on the property surrounding the lot in question, and whether the modification will help preserve natural landform, historical features, and/or significant trees or foliage. When approving use permits, the Board of Zoning Appeals may impose conditions that it deems necessary and in the public interest, including but not limited to the duration of the use permit. This board does not have the authority to grant use permits to modify requirements for expanded housing option developments. Second, the BZA can grant variances from the specific requirements of the zoning ordinance. When granting variances, the burden of proof is on the applicant to prove by a preponderance of the evidence that the strict application of the ordinance would unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property, and the need for a variance would not be shared generally by other properties, and such variance is not contrary to the purposes of the ordinance, or that the strict application of the ordinance would unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property, or that the granting of the variance would alleviate a hardship due to a physical condition relating to the property or improvements thereon at the time of the effective date of the ordinance, or alleviate a hardship by granting a reasonable modification to a property or improvement thereon requested on or behalf of a person with a disability. In all variance cases, the property for which the variance is being requested was required in good faith and any hardship was not created by the applicant. That the variance granted will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent properties and nearby properties in the proximity of the geographic area. That the condition or situation of the property concerned is not of so general or reoccurring in nature as to make reasonably practical the adoption of an amendment to the ordinance. That granting of the variance will not result in a use that is not otherwise permitted on the property or change the zoning classification of the property, and that the relief or remedy obtained through the variance is not available through a special exception process as provided for under the zoning or subdivision ordinance. Third, the BZA can decide appeals of decisions of the zoning administrator. When deciding appeals of the zoning administrator, the board must use its judgment to determine if the administrator was correct. Now on to tonight's hybrid hearing. For those who are participating in person, on the front table you will find a QR code linking to a copy of the application package, including the staff report for each case before us this evening. For those participating virtually, a copy of each application package can be found in the Arlington County BZA website. There is also a link in the chat for the application packages. I recommend that if you not have yet seen that report for your case, that you review that report before your case is called. If you are attending virtually and lose connectivity, please reconnect with us by phone. If you are attending via Teams, please keep yourself muted and cameras off until called upon. Turn off the sound and any other devices around you to minimize interference. When called upon to speak, please turn your camera on and unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon that is located in the meeting command bar. County staff does not have the ability to unmute you. The meeting chat is active for technical support assistance only. The meeting chat should not be used for discussion, public comments, questions about agenda items, or requests for more information. All public comments must be shared verbally or have been previously provided in writing for the record during the assigned public testimony period. This evening, staff will call each case and will provide a brief staff report and recommendation. Next, board members will ask any questions of staff they may have. Applicant or their representative will be given an opportunity to make comments to support the application or appeal. Next, all speakers for the item will be called. Speakers must fill out a speaker slip online or is available on the table in the front of the room. After we hear from speakers for and against the proposal, the board may permit the applicant a brief opportunity to clarify any points. The board may ask questions of any speakers, but does not permit any cross-examination or direct questioning by others. For tonight's hearing, this board has deemed the following time limits for speakers to be sufficient: 20 minutes for applicants of appeals, 5 minutes for applicants of use permits and variances. We have deemed 3 minutes for representatives of organizations and 2 minutes for individuals as sufficient. After the board has gathered all the information we need and have discussed the case, we will decide the matter by voting on a motion duly made and seconded. A majority is needed to approve any motion. Please be respectful of the time allotted. This is a public forum and tonight's meeting will be recorded and posted on the county's website. All information associated with tonight's meeting, whether spoken or written, is subject to the Freedom of Information Act requirements. Any appeal from the decision of this board must be made to the circuit court in accordance with state law. After your case of interest is heard, you are welcome to stay for the balance of the session or leave at your convenience. Before we call the first case, I have a quick administrative question for staff. Mr. Bowen, have any, or Ms. Ryan, have any appeals been filed between the last meeting we held and today?
Yes, since the last BZA hearing, we received 3 appeal applications. One has been confirmed to be in error and has been resubmitted as a permit request. And we have also received, as of today, 2 appeal requests related to the issuance of EHO permits that we have not yet done completeness checks on.
Thank you. And so once you have worked your way through that, I assume that will work its way to us, those applications.
I believe so, yes.
Thank you. I'll follow up with you later.
Please do.
Ms. Mellis.
Oops, just to clarify, when would we expect to see the appeal material?
We typically complete our completeness check within about a week. So sometime probably no earlier than next Wednesday.
Thank you. Thank you both. Tonight, I have 2 requests from board members to participate virtually. Virginia law requires there is an in-person quorum in order to allow board members to participate virtually. Since we have 3 in-person board members present, a quorum is met. Ms. Freshman has requested to participate virtually for personal reasons from her residence due to a pre-scheduled conflict. Ms. Freshman, can you please certify that you can hear us? Unmute yourself.
Yes, the whole picture has changed recently and I can't find it. Thank you.
And I can certify that I and those in the room can hear you.
Thank you.
Member Ms. Arthurs has also requested to participate virtually for personal reasons from her residence due to a pre-scheduled conflict. Ms. Arthurs, can you please certify that you can hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. And I certify that those of us in the room can also hear you. Now that that matter has been addressed. Mr. Bowen, tonight, because we have 2 BZA members who have prior commitments and may not stay for the entire meeting, they have been gracious enough to join us virtually to allow the full BZA board to hear a few cases that have in the past have historically been close votes. As such, I would like to seek a unanimous consent from my colleagues in order to reorder the agenda and call cases number 9, which is V-1181-23-VA, Number 13, V-1184-23-VA. And number 14, V-11885-23-VA to the start of our agenda tonight.
No objection. Guess they have to.
Ms. Arthurs and Ms. Freshman, any objection?
No.
Objection.
That being the case, Mr. Bowen, can you please call the first case, which is V-1181-23-VA-1?
Yes, Mr. Kaplan, I would like to certify that you do not wish to hear case number V-11881-23-UP-1, which is a use permit associated with the first variance request.
It's associated with the variance request?
It's associated with it.
Yes.
Then we should hear it. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
My fault.
Then I will seek unanimous consent to add the case that Mr. Bowen just mentioned as the second case associated with that.
Can you give us what number, order number?
That was number 10,
Um,
881.
Number 10? Apologies.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen.
Yes, no problem.
Can you call the first?
I'm sorry, had you sought unanimous consent and received it?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't hear Ms. Arthurs or Ms.
All right.
Freshman.
Can you call number 9?
Sure, absolutely.
We're going to go with it.
All right, the first case that's being potentially considered for movement earlier in the agenda is case number V-11881-23-VA-1. This is a variance request by David and Andrea McGuire, the owners, to permit a new addition which exceeds 50% of the total aggregate floor area contained in the existing building with a non-conforming setback in the R27 zoning district regarding a new right side addition to an existing semi-detached dwelling in the R27 zoning district on the premises known as 2735 South Ewell Street within the Long Branch Creek Civic Association. I can proceed to call the related use permit request as well now if you'd like, as well as the other cases, or if you want to hear that case individually and then make a.
Yeah, we're going to hear the cases individually. So
Okay.
thank you. Is the applicant with, or I'm sorry, do any board members have questions for staff? The applicant with us. Please step on down.
Do I speak to just the use permit or can I just speak to it all together?
So we're going to start with the variance,
Oh, the variance. Okay.
and the use permit will be the next case.
Gotcha. Okay. I know you're pressed for time, so I won't add anything or I won't repeat anything that's in the letter already. But just a couple points to add on the various on the variance, understanding the votes have been split. Couple considerations I'd like you to take into account. One is, if the intent of subsection 16.2.4-B is kind of limit or prevent nonconformities, it's a unique situation in that actually bringing this into conformance would be very awkward for the look in the neighborhood and for the entrance of house. Essentially, what we need to do to bring this into conformance would be to knock down the existing porch roof and create just a stoop in the entrance, uncovered, and it would look incompatible with the neighborhood. Second, it's our understanding that some of the votes against approving this type of variance in the past may perhaps be because board members feel it's such a common situation that would warrant, amending the ordinance versus granting a variance. The analysis report cites that less than 2.8% of requests are of this type. I'd say furthermore, the particular situation that we have is only a small percentage of the houses in R2-7. And an even smaller number of requests of variance. And kind of briefly looking through, actually couldn't find any examples of this particular situation. So I don't think it'd be reasonable to expect the ordinance would likely be amended for such a specific situation. And that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Any questions for this applicant from the board? Discussion with the board. Motions.
I can make a motion.
Ms. Clark,
I move that the BZA adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the variance V-11881-23-VA-1, subject to the conditions listed.
Second.
a motion by Ms. Clark, seconded by Ms. Arthurs. Any further discussion?
Chairman,
Ms. Malice.
I will speak to that. I am one of the board members that do not support the variance, but I disagree a little bit with your statement that this is such a small matter that the county board would not enact an ordinance to correct it. In fact, it applies to your whole district. Even though, you know, when you look at it in terms of cases we hear or cases in the county, this is everything in Fairlington is affected. And so from my point of view, I think an ordinance change is definitely warranted.
This is R27, not Fairleigh.
It's not Fairlington.
But same concept applies.
Same concept applies. Skip the Fairlington part.
And I'll just say, I tend to adopt Ms. Malice's view. And I would also just, you know, write your council member to have this changed, because that's the only way that we can help prevent, or you can help prevent others in your situation from having to come before us.
Understood.
I will call the roll. Ms. Malice,
No.
Ms. Freshman,
Aye.
Ms. Clark,
Aye.
Ms. Arthurs.
Aye.
Chair votes no. The motion to grant this variance passes 3-2. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't go anywhere. Mr. Bowen, can you please call the associated use permit?
Yes, the next case is case number V-11881-23-UP-1. This is a use permit request by David and Andrea McGuire, the owners, to permit a right side setback of 7.2 feet to the wall of the addition and porch instead of 10 feet as required, regarding a new right side addition to an existing semi-detached dwelling in the R27 zoning district on the premises known as 2735 South Ewell Street within the Long Branch Creek Civic Association. Staff's recommendation is for approval of the subject BZA use permit, subject to the conditions listed.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff on this use permit? Would the applicant like to speak again?
Nothing really to add beyond what's in the letter. The board unanimously approved an almost identical use permit requested for attached neighbor in April. So very hopefully approve this as well. It'll look great and be very compatible with the neighborhood.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Motions.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Malice.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the attached proposed resolution granting use permit V-11881-23-UP-1, subject to the conditions listed.
Second.
A motion made by Ms. Malice and seconded by Ms. Clark. Are there any further discussion with the board? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Ms. Malice.
Aye.
Ms. Freshman.
Aye.
Ms. Clark.
Aye.
Ms. Arthurs.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion for this use permit passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Good luck with your project. Thank you. Mr. Bowen, can you please call the next variance on our rearranged agenda tonight?
Yes, the next case on the agenda is case number V-11884-23-VA-1. This is a variance request by Mike Brennan on behalf of Robert Nelson, the owner, to permit an interior structural alteration to an existing non-conforming multiple family residential building regarding an interior renovation to remove load-bearing kitchen wall in the RA 1426 zoning district on the premise known as 3519 South Stafford Street within the Fairlington Civic Association. Zoning Division staff recommends approval of this variance request, subject to the conditions listed.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this application for staff? Is the applicant with us?
The applicant sent me an email this evening saying that he had a prior engagement, but his father, Brian, would speak on his behalf.
Is the applicant's father with us?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great.
Go ahead, if you would like to speak to this application.
Yeah, so this is a typical small 4-foot wall that's load bearing that we remove interior and do a flush mount beam and to open the kitchen up. Basically, that's what we're asking for a variance for.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board for this applicant? Motions.
Motion.
Ms. Freshman.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution approving variance V-11884-23-VA-1, subject to the conditions listed.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Freshman and seconded by Ms. Clark. Are there any further discussion? I will just say that this is a very similar issue to the last variance we just heard, where my personal view is that this is not a case in which this is a case in which the county board could easily issue a new regulation or rule to fix this problem, and that this is not the proper use of this board's authority. That being said, is there any further discussion other than that? And I will call the roll. Ms. Malice,
No.
Ms. Freshman,
Aye.
Ms. Clark,
Aye.
Ms. Arthurs.
Aye.
Chair votes no. This variance passes on a vote of 3-2. Good luck with your project.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Bowen, can you please call the last item on this reorganized agenda?
Sorry about that. I turned off my microphone. The last item in the reordered agenda is case number V-11885-23-VA-1. This is a variance request by Monica McGuire, the owner, to permit a structural alteration to an existing non-conforming multiple family residential building regarding the removal of an exterior window, regarding the removal of an existing window and replacement of a door and addition of steps in the RA 1426 zoning district on the premises known as 470 South Utah Street within the Arlington Civic Association. Staff recommends approval of this variance request subject to the conditions listed. Please also note that we do have supplemental material that was submitted for this case, which is a letter from the applicant regarding her neighborhood outreach efforts.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Are there any questions for staff on this application? Is the applicant with us? Come on down.
Good evening, board members. I'm Monica McGuire, resident and homeowner of 3470A South Utah Street. I've lived there for 20 years. I want to first thank you for all of you board members for your public service. And I don't say that lightly, which often is no easy task, as I witnessed you at the September BZA meeting. So thank you for your service. Launching into just quickly. My variance request is for a much smaller project. It is simply to remove an existing dining room window and replace it with French doors and create a step or two to exit the French doors into the patio. My project should only take 5 days, according to my contractor. So less disturbance, not months of disturbance to nearby neighbors. I'm an end unit. I just wanted to make a comment about a couple changes since the last meeting where you heard Arlington variance requests. One is the Arlington County Board met on September 23rd, and this issue came up, and every board member, county board member, spoke to this issue and admitted it was an unintentional issue, which is causing us to come, okay? But what to me is important is that they're seeking they said repeatedly, they're seeking a quick resolution, quick fix, although there's no definition of what a quick fix or how much the time frame might be. And then the second comment that was made at the board by one of the board members was that they need to basically do due diligence to ensure that any fix that they come up with doesn't adversely affect another part of the county, which is, that's very prudent. So I don't know how quickly. I mean, they have a lot of work to do. So that is why I asked tonight for approval of my variance request. The other comment made at that board meeting, Arlington County Board meeting by a board member, I didn't catch the whole comment. I'm not good at stenography, but was that something about the county's Department of Community Planning, Housing and Development, if I have that right, was working on this issue. I'm not sure if it's in their plan for this year to address or next year. You all might know. I didn't catch the full comment, but I'm just saying that is why I'm here, and maybe you're hearing requests. And then let's see if I had anything else to mention to you. Also, my unit in Arlington Arbor is unique. It's unique in part for several reasons. One is it's the largest courtyard. in the Fairlington Arbor. So my neighbor closest to me in the north is at least 50 yards. My neighbor closest to me in the south is 30 yards, and in some cases, it's like close to 40 yards. And so my immediate neighbor is 10 feet, because that 10 feet setback. So just highlighting that. And then also the Fairlington Arbor HOA board approved my changes that I sought, and they're very strict on complying with Virginia Historical Society laws and the National Historical Landmark. In closing, thank you all, BZA staff in particular, because they did yeoman's work for this and answered my many, many questions as I handled this arcane process of the county variance while holding two jobs, a day job and an evening job. With that, thank you for listening to my remarks. I would gladly answer any questions and would be glad to provide additional information.
Thank you, and thank you for that update. I think that we all appreciate knowing that that the word is getting around. Does any board members have any further?
Mr. Chair?
Malice?
Yeah, I also appreciate your lucid explanation of what's going on. I'm one of the members that vote no on this because I do feel that this is an inappropriate venue. And I think your situation is a wonderful example where you're trying to do a window and yet you must file and come to the BZA when pretty much everybody else in Arlington can do that by right without getting the county involved.
Both time and expense.
And time and expense, because we know you have a filing fee and you have a process that you go through. And so, for me to just capitulate and say it's okay, I don't want to send that message that that this is not an urgent matter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you. Discussion with the board. Motions. Ms. Arthurs. Or Ms. Freshman. That was, so I thought that was Ms. Arthur's voice, just to be.
No worries. I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution approving variance V-11885-23-VA-1, subject to the conditions listed.
I'll second.
Second, a motion made by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Ms. Clark. Is there any further discussion with the board? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Ms. Malice,
No.
Ms. Freshman,
Aye.
Ms. Clark,
Aye.
Ms. Arthurs.
Aye.
Chair votes no. Motion on this variance passes 3-2. Good luck with your project, and thanks for joining us. It's my understanding that Ms. Arthurs has to now leave us for her previous commitment. I would like to thank her on behalf of all of those 4 applicants for attending so that we could dispose of those cases expeditiously.
Awesome.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you,
Arthurs.
guys.
Mr. Bowen, can you please call the next case?
Yes, Mr. Kaplan. And before we move on to the next case on the agenda, I do want to confirm that there are no other cases considered for maybe an expedited group approval motion.
Nope, I do not believe that there are any more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that confirmation. In that case, the next case on the agenda will be case number V-11856-23-UP-1. This is a carryover and revised request, and it is a use permit request by William Archer on behalf of Kristen Ball, the owners, to permit a rear setback of 19 feet to the wall, 18.2 feet to the eave of the addition instead of 25 feet to the wall, 21 feet to the eave as required, and to permit a right side setback of 10 feet to the wall of the addition instead of 13 feet as required, and to permit an aggregate side yard width of 19.7 feet instead of 21 feet as required regarding a new rear addition and right side addition to an existing one-family dwelling in the R8 zoning district on the premises known as 5556 16th Street North within the Terra Leeway Heights Civic Association. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request subject to the conditions listed.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Mr. Bowen, was there any supplemental material for this case?
As of the start of this hearing, we have not received any supplemental material for this case.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff?
Question?
Ms. Freshman.
Freshman.
Could you just remind us the reason for the carryover?
Initially, there was a very old plat and you requested last time for them to get an updated plat, which they've done since the last meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Freshman. Ms. Malice.
It says that this is a revised application. Can you outline what the revisions are?
I revised the aggregate because based on the new plat, it showed one of the sides was a little bit closer, so that got changed. I can look exactly what that got changed from.
So did the setbacks didn't change, but the aggregate changed?
Let me verify real quick.
Yeah, but I believe, and Megan confirmed this, that the aggregate changed because the new plat, which was done more recently with new surveying technology, showed a different measurement, I believe, in the right side yard.
I see on the right. So that the ask didn't change, the condition just changed.
Correct. Yeah, I believe the kind of the assessment of the project changed based on the new survey. And Meg, please let me know if I'm mistaken in that regard.
That's correct. I can see exactly what.
And
it
do we
changed.
have the new survey?
It's in the packet materials.
Okay.
September 20th.
It's bad.
Oh, there it is. Got it. Thank you.
Is the applicant with us? Is the applicant with us?
Yes, the applicant is here.
Great. Would you like to speak to your application?
So I have lived in my home for 39 years. I am a backdoor neighbor to the property that is requesting the variance. I became very good friends with the neighbor, and we sort of lamented some of the larger, taller houses that were being built, and particularly the neighbor who was born in that house and raised her family in that house asked if I would consider taking the house and renovating the house as a preference to selling it and likely having the house torn down. The house is probably has the most deferred maintenance of any home in the neighborhood, and would be likely to be one that would be taken down. So I told her that I would purchase it, and we would put together a plan that would allow us to improve it and to renovate it. One of the garage addition had subsided by about 2 inches on one end on the west end of it, and it needs to be taken down and replaced. And so the rest of the house would then be renovated, and we would put a family room on the back, and then we would go to the sideline for the majority of the addition on the west side, and then but in order to make the family room square, we need to take 3 feet on one side, and then I think 7 feet on the back side. The back side abuts my property. And then I took and went to each of the neighbors who were equally concerned about the house coming down and wanted it to be sustained. And I showed them the drawings that we had considered, and each of the neighbors agreed. There were 3 neighbors, and they all signed emails saying that they supported the idea of this variance. And so our goal is to try to do something that comports with the traditions of the neighborhood, retains the majority of the houses, and then fulfills the wish of the previous owner, or the woman who is going to be the previous owner. And out of friendship, I want to do something that I can do. I have restored a number of houses, and I've worked closely with architects, and I enjoy the idea that we could sustain the character of that particular part of the neighborhood.
Thank you. Are there any questions for this applicant? Ms. Malice?
Yeah, there's correspondence from Joanna and Jan Are they your neighbors?
Joanna and Jan. Joanna and Jan. I don't think so. Could
Do
you
you-
tell me?
Well, it's from Joanna Lynn Zakruski.
Oh, Jan.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Are they
They
your
are
neighbor?
yes, they're on the corner of Ivanhoe and 16th Street. They're my neighbor, and they're also the west side yard neighbor of the ball house.
They're to the right of you as you face your house.
Correct.
And they
No, if
asked,
you're facing my house is where the cursor was where that Joanne and Jan are, and then my house is just one going towards north from there, or south from there, excuse me.
South.
That's my house where the cursor just was.
okay, they had mentioned water.
Yes. Well, what had happened is that the balls had basically created drains that flowed directly into their backyard, and we need to work on repairing that, and because all of those will come out when the addition comes out, and we will have to work towards addressing those water issues that they raised.
Okay, but they're okay with your project and they'll just work with you on that.
Correct.
Okay.
They support the project. They prefer the house not come down.
Question?
Miss Malice,
No,
Miss
Miss-
Freshman. Sorry, I
Uh,
can't see you.
Okay, so there is a property at 1531 Ivanhoe, which
That's me.
presumably is next to you and also behind the subject site?
That is me. 1531 North Ivanhoe is me.
That's you. Okay.
Yes.
Because
So
that
that-
was, I was missing feedback surrounding the site, and I didn't realize, I thought that you were at 1537, but now I see. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Miss Freshman. I can't see you, so speak up. I can't see a hand raised or anything.
Okay,
So just
I'll
speak up.
yell.
Anything further for the applicant? I see you now, Ms. Freshman. Discussion
Do you
with the
want-
board.
I can make a motion if you like, but I didn't know if you were through with the discussion.
I think we are through with the discussion. I think we're ready for motion.
Okay, I move the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the attached proposed resolution granting use permit V-11856-23-UP1, subject to the conditions listed.
Second.
A motion made by Ms. Freshman and seconded by Ms. Malice. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Ms. Malice,
Aye.
Ms. Freshman,
Aye.
Ms. Clark,
Aye.
chair votes aye. Motion to grant this application passes on a vote of 4-0. Good luck
I
with your
want to
project. And
thank you very much. I just want to thank the staff who were incredible, professional, and kind. So thank you for their work.
And I would like to note that your renderings on this project were pretty good for hand-drawn. We don't often see hand-drawn renderings that we can read
Makes
accurately.
sense.
That's because I have a very good architect. He did my addition as well about 30 years ago.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Bowen, can you call the second case?
Yes, just confirming the order of the agenda since we made some adjustments. I believe the next case that I'll be calling on the agenda is case number V-11866-23-UP-1. This is also a carryover item.
Yeah.
A use permit request by Dan Kaiser on behalf of Erica and Scott Moore, the owners, to permit a right side setback of 5.1 feet to the wall, 5 feet to the eave, instead of 10 feet to the wall, 6 feet to the eave as required, and a total aggregate side yard width of 14.9 feet instead of 18 feet as required, regarding a new second-story right-side addition to an existing one-family dwelling in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 2008 North Upland Street within the Waverly Hills Civic Association. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. And as of the start of this hearing, we have not received any supplemental materials for this case.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Is there any questions on this application for staff? Is the applicant with us?
Yes, this is Erica Moore.
Erica, would you like to speak to your application? I don't yet see you, but you'll come up here.
I can come on camera. Yeah, I can speak to the application, and sorry, I'm in the car. Not driving. So for our application, what we have in our existing home is we have an existing addition that underwent some water damage a couple months ago. And so what we're requesting is to take down the existing addition, replace it in the exact same footprint it currently is in, and then also add a second story on top of it to increase the livable square footage in our home.
Thank you.
The reason that we're coming back this time, we were there at the board meeting last month, is we were asked to go back and get signatures in writing from our neighbors, and we went through and got that, and nobody had any issues.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for this applicant? Malice.
We appreciate that extra step you took. That's very helpful to us. I wondered, did you contact your rear neighbor?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. We talked to them through the fence a couple of times. They were busy with kids and we weren't able to get them to sign it. So yeah, it was never a good timing when we went over. But they support the project and we confirmed that with them.
Any other questions or discussion with the board or motions? Ms. Clark. Ms. Clark.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit V-11866-23-UP-1, subject to the conditions listed.
Thank you, Ms. Clark.
Second.
A motion made by Ms. Clark and seconded by Ms. Freshman. Any further discussion with the board? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Ms. Malice, Ms. Freshman,
Aye.
Ms. Clark.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion to grant this use permit passes 4-0.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Mr. Bowen, can you please call number 3, which is 11867?
Thank you for confirming, Mr. Kaplan. Yes, case number V-11867-23-UP-1. This is also a carryover item. A use permit request by Jay Shalati on behalf of Charles and Lorraine Gandy, the owners, to permit a street setback of 9.7 feet to the porch, 8.7 feet to the porch eave, instead of 21 feet to the porch, 19.5 feet to the porch eave as required, and to permit a street setback of 8.7 feet to the building wall, 8.1 feet to the building eave, instead of 25 feet to the building wall, 21 feet to the building eave as required from Chesterbrook Road, and to permit a total aggregate side yard width of 20.1 feet instead of 24 feet as required regarding the addition of a new porch on a one-story building addition to an existing non-conforming one-family dwelling on a corner lot in the R10 zoning district on the premises known as 4418 38th Road North within the Old Glebe Civic Association. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution approving the use permit request with conditions. And as of the start of the hearing, we have not received any supplemental materials for this case.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff on this application? If not, I see the applicant is with us.
I'm here.
Welcome.
I'm Jay Shalati. The thing to know about this as a corner lot is that Chesterbrook actually does not continue all the way through. It actually stops about halfway on the distance on the lot. It really just serves as an access for the driveway for either side, so that what sounds like a large ask of the 8.7 for front setback is actually, it doesn't front to a street itself. So the portions we're asking are for to rebuild an existing angle bay, but make it a straight box bay, and then add a roof over an existing deck. So the roof being, I guess, the larger portion of the ask. The roof itself does not, we're not adding any footprint closer to the street. It's really just because it has an eave on it, so it ends up being a little bit closer. I think those are the pieces on it.
Seems like a fake corner lot to me.
Yeah, there, I guess you can say there still is a public walkway that connects the adjoining neighborhood. So
Right.
it has a frontage. Yes.
Do we have any questions for this applicant, Ms. Malice?
You were here last month, right?
Yes.
And it was for signatures?
Yeah, they got like a dozen of them.
Pardon?
They got like a dozen. They had gotten like a dozen signatures in the meantime.
So that's why you're back.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Question.
Ms. Clark?
Were there signatures or approvals from 4410? Your other neighbor, I guess, 4501 on 30, at the corner of 37th.
Yeah, so 4410 is actually the Charles and Lorraine actually live there. So they bought the house next door.
Okay.
So 4410 is their house. The one on the corner of 37th, they talk to everybody who they see. But basically, yeah, and they've been on the street for, I don't want to exaggerate, but it's about 40 years. They've lived at 4410.
Okay.
Ms. Malice?
I'm working through here. I had a question. The street setback. I was just looking to see how consistent it is. So you're showing an enclosed porch, HVAC unit, and a carport. Am I reading that right? That you're using those are comparables? That's for staff. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, I
But
didn't
those are
realize
your
as much.
comparables, right? The stoop.
Let me check out the table that's included in the staff report to
Looking
respond
at
to your
the
question, Ms. Malice. Just a moment.
Just when we get so close to the street, we have to be careful
Yeah, I understand.
in terms of
On-
setting
on paper,
precedents.
that it looks very close.
Yeah,
I know you don't go by this at all. The actual distance from the house to the asphalt is about 26. But I know that doesn't count. I'm well aware of that.
oh, to the actual.
To the actual asphalt, but I
Right.
know it's not the property line.
No,
I'm well aware of that, but just informationally.
right. So
And yet-
those are the comparables, right?
Yeah, the page number on page 4, the first table on that. Yeah, that's the correct table. And those are the structures that we use for street setback analysis.
Yeah.
Mr. Bowen, I'm sure you won't answer that. You won't be able to answer this, but I'm looking at the tax map and that would be safe to assume that the county owns that space in between 401 and 3737, so that if the county wanted to make that road go through, they could.
I do not know the answer to that definitively, unfortunately.
I can answer a little bit. Okay, so when you look at 4418, and it's got that weird extra triangle.
Right.
That is a secondary property that's deeded together.
Right.
With it. So I guess the county could say we want a piece of that to make the road.
But I think that this probably fits within the comparables anyway. But I mean, that's why it looks like a fake corner, but I would assume that the county could make that connect if they wanted to at some point in the future. And so I think that's why what Ms. Malice was inquiring about.
Yeah, so, you've got two very narrow street setbacks being requested. A 9.7 and an 8.7, on the corner. Those are narrow.
Oh, I agree. That's why it does
That's why
look
you're
very,
here.
it does look very close.
Yeah.
I have one of these similar ones in my neighborhood too.
Yeah.
Where there's like a fake road that ends. Any further discussion with the board or motions?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Malice,
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution approving use permit V-11867-23-UP-1, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report.
I'll second.
a motion made by Ms. Malice and seconded by Ms. Clark. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Ms. Malice,
Aye.
Ms. Freshman,
Aye.
Ms. Clark.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes 4-0. Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Mr. Bowen, I believe the next case ends in 7-6, number 4.
I have the same impression, Mr. Kaplan, and that case is, as you mentioned, case number V-11867-22-UP-1.
7-6.
Sorry. I will repeat from the beginning then. Thank you.
7-6, right?
Ms.
Yes.
I will start over. Case number V-11876-22-UP-1, a use permit request by Megan Collins, the owner, to permit a right side setback of 0 feet to the wall and eaves instead of 10 feet to the wall, 6 feet to the eaves as required, and to permit a rear setback of 6.9 feet to the wall and eaves instead of 25 feet to the wall, 21 feet to the eave as required, regarding the after the fact approval for a new 2-story detached accessory building on an existing semi-detached dwelling in the R27 zoning district on the premises known as 2123 South Oxford Street within the Green Valley Civic Association. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. As of the start of this hearing, we have not received any supplemental material for this case either.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Questions of staff for this application?
Question?
Ms. Freshman,
I believe it says in the report that this was constructed without a building permit?
Yes, I believe so. The applicant can confirm as much. I believe, based on the statement of justification that was submitted, they believe that by using the existing foundations and more or less building the exact same structure that was there previously, that they did not need a building permit.
Okay, do you, in your opinion, had there been a building permit, would have been flagged and sent here?
In my impression of knowing the zoning ordinance and how the zoning plan review team reviewed plans, yes, I believe it would have been.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bowen, I was just curious, how did this case get flagged for zoning review?
That I'm not sure of.
Okay,
Is it,
go ahead, Ms. Malice.
is it true it's generally, these things are flagged when someone complains?
That is certainly one methodology that we hear from, yeah. Primarily when, people think that structures look a little too big or a little too close to the property line. That's not uncommon for us to receive a complaint.
Okay, that's why I was asking.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to speak?
Sure. Hi, I'm Megan Collins. I'm the owner of the property, and I've lived there for 15 years now. And this was, it was indeed a property that, or we've used the existing foundation from an old garage that was on the property when I purchased it from the original owners, that had passed its lifespan. And so I was given very bad advice and guidance by a contractor, that as long as I stayed within this, stayed with the existing foundation, that there was no need for permits. And, obviously that wasn't correct. So, so that's why I'm here today, is to get approval for my use permit to, there is a structure there, but it is only partially, it's framed out, but construction stopped when we were told to, and it's been sitting there ready, waiting to be completed. Obviously with some adjustments that need to be made based on the changes that we were asked to do when we went through the permitting process.
Can you speak to what those changes were?
There's yes.
I can't recall if I read that in the report.
Yeah, it's the
Eaves, right?
eaves. Yep.
Thank
There's
you.
eaves.
Yeah, that's right. I did read that.
And was it also removing the sliding doors?
Sorry. Oh,
Something-
and the sliding, yes. So that was not asked. That's something that there are windows on the side that were also need to be removed. So the sliding doors was just by preference to remove. There was a chance to make adjustments.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Mellis.
um, do you know how this came to the attention of zoning?
I do not. I know that, I mean, our neighborhood, and I actually have seen Ms. Clark's comments on this before. We get comment calls from investors and people trying to buy my property several times a week. And there is always a lot of attention in the neighborhood right now from people about what construction's happening all the time. So this is something that was started a while ago. And I have personally talked to all of my neighbors and got signatures from everyone with no problem. So if anyone else had anything to say, they've had plenty of time to say it.
So when did you actually start construction?
In December of 2019, and it got shut down right when COVID started. But then no contractor would touch it because I didn't have a variance and it was already built. So I had to then go find an architect to then build plans, to make me plans. I had to basically go figure it out myself. And I'm a single mom with 2 kids, one that graduated from Wakefield in 2020. So I had my hands full and I own my own business. So it took me a while to put the pieces together.
So zoning halted it in 2019?
In January of 2020.
In January of 20?
Or early February. I don't remember the exact date, but it was it was within weeks of COVID kind of shutting the world down. I think it was February. I don't know if you have a date.
I do not have the date.
Yeah, I think it's
unfortunately.
February maybe of 2020.
So what happened? You would not pursue it? You would just put a stop order on it?
If a stop work order could have been issued by zoning or it could have been issued by ISD, reviewing building permit plans. So I'm not sure who stopped it or for what reasons.
Okay. And there's no time frame for it to be addressed? Because this is like 4 years later.
As far as to my knowledge, there's not specific timeframes that would limit when the application.
All right. So it was up to you to pick. So what is the name of your contractor that gave you the bad advice?
I could provide that. I have not talked to him since then, so I could look it up and provide that information for you if you'd like.
I just, since that just happened to be your justification is that you
No,
got
I
back
understand. I'd be
bad
happy to.
advice.
I can look it up if you'd like. I don't want to get it wrong.
All right. Well, okay. But that was what I was wondering about. Because have you gone back to him and straightened
No,
things up?
I mean, he knew because we got the stop work order, and he had his architect build plans to try to get it through. But at some point, I had to cut bait because he wasn't. I mean, I was working with him through June of 2020, continuing to try to move through the permitting process with him, and I at some point realized wasn't working.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions for the applicant? Discussion with the board?
Yes.
Ms. Mellis.
That's really a question for staff. One of the conditions that you proposed, condition number 2, I'm a little puzzled about. It would seem to me that it would be cleaner if we just said nothing's going to be built over this structure. Instead, it says a portion of the structure.
In most of our applications, we don't make a distinction between encroaching and not encroaching.
Right.
So my question was whether, and I don't mean to railroad, but was there a reason why in this case staff is recommending that distinction?
Let me take a look at the plans for a second and refresh my memory of why I might have written the condition that way, and I'll get back to you in just a moment.
Thank you.
Because my inclination is just to say you're not going to build over this structure. I mean, I don't recall ever seeing a condition that says.
Like I know from my experience, mine have a no built over clause.
Right.
Not just the 1 foot over.
Right.
Taking a quick look at the plans, I believe because the structure is about, a little bit over, it's a little bit at an angle and it's also 10 feet wide. There is a portion of the structure that's technically by right. You're free to, of course, amend the condition and remove that language if you'd like, but, technically there is a portion of the structure that is by right.
I would ask unanimous consent to modify. If there's more discussion, I'll wait.
So like I'm just going back from, and I think most of these probably don't make that distinction, but like I know from when I did my kitchen and I came to the BZA, I think mine has under the condition that it's not built over, right? So like if I wanted to build over on my kitchen, and this is just hypothetically, I assume I would have to come, even if I wanted to do the by right portion for that condition, I would have to come back to the BZA to do that. Is that a
Possibly. I mean, it really depends on what exactly is being proposed, the setbacks. So
Right.
hard to say definitively. Of course, our conditions to you are recommended, but you're free to amend them as you see fit.
No, does staff have an opinion on what Ms. Malice is proposing? Is there, like I said, I don't remember seeing a distinction on this, on applications like, built over by right versus not by right.
Mhm.
And so is that going forward, are we going to see that more? Is this an official policy, or I'm just trying to, before we start making changes, I'm just trying to get a little bit more.
We
like,
certainly included that language in other requests, just based on the specifics of that case. Not every request, we do kind of tweak the conditions based on the plans that are submitted. I would not say I have an objection to that condition being changed, though.
Would the applicant have any objection to agreeing to not build over?
Making any changes to the, yes, I have no problem making that change.
Would Ms. Malice, would you like to make your
I'll make a motion.
motion?
Then we can move on to conditions. I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the attached proposed resolution approving use permit V-11876-22-UP-1, subject to the conditions listed. But I will make a motion to modify that.
Second,
Ms. Malice, are you going to make,
I ask unanimous consent to revise condition number 2 to read: the applicant agrees that the two-story detached accessory building shall not be enlarged or built over.
do we have a second for that?
No, it's
modification?
unanimous consent.
No, but we still need a second.
Oh, we got a second for the motion, didn't we?
Well, you had to finish making your,
No, I made a motion.
yes, you're right.
yes, I seconded the motion.
And Judy.
Okay.
And so now
Do
I'm
we-
asking,
Thank you. Do we have unanimous consent?
do we have unanimous? I'm asking for unanimous consent to make that change.
Yes,
No objection.
No objection.
no objection.
A motion made by Ms. Malice and seconded by Ms. Freshman, including a unanimous consent for a condition change. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Ms. Malice,
Aye.
Ms. Freshman,
Aye,
Ms. Clark,
Aye.
chair votes aye. Motion passes 4-0. I hope you finally get to finish this project.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Bowen, can you please call number 11877?
Yes, Mr. Kaplan, thank you. Next case on the agenda is case number V-11877-23-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Sean Nazaman on behalf of Nadim Iqbal and Sahara Javed, the owners, to permit a left side setback of 3.9 feet to the eaves, 4.2 feet to the balcony, and 4 feet to the deck instead of 6 feet to the eave, balcony, and deck as required, and to permit a right side setback of 8.6 feet to the addition wall instead of 10 feet to the wall as required, and to permit a total aggregate side yard width of 12.1 feet instead of 18 feet as required, regarding a second-story left side addition, a two-story rear addition with basement, a second-story balcony, and a left side deck addition to an existing one-family dwelling in the R5 zoning district on the premises known as 1027 19th Street South within the Arlington Ridge Civic Association. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. Please note that there is supplemental material for this case that came in after the application packets were assembled and printed. This includes a letter from a neighbor, and we also have a speaker slip for the same neighbor, Rosamunda Azgu, who signed up as an individual to speak on this case.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Are there any questions for staff? Hearing none, applicant is clearly with us. Would you like to speak to your application?
Yeah, I'm Sean Nazemian.
Welcome.
I'm the builder for Mr. Iqbal and Mrs. Javad. They're the long members of this community, and they're thank you for staff for supporting us for getting this application together. Mainly, they wanted to stay in this house. They've been in the neighborhood for so long, and they just want to improve the house that they're in. And it's in compatible with neighborhood. It doesn't have any impact of inverse impact on the neighborhood. The neighborhood is up and growing. They have the support of the neighbors, and that's just they wanted to enjoy the house and just get this project going.
Thank you. Have you seen the supplemental material we received?
Yes, I have.
Do you have any comments to that?
I believe they have the owners approached the neighbors at the back, and they have tried to get in touch with her. This project with the roof lines and the drainage will not have any impact on the back neighbors, and we will do whatever it takes to make sure the drainage and everything is addressed and does not adversely impact back neighbors.
Thank you. Ms. Malice has a question.
So I believe your neighbor's going to speak. It's not, you're the contractor, is that correct? Yeah. Did you collect the neighborhood input, or did the owners collect the neighborhood?
The owners did.
The owners did,
Yeah,
okay.
and they're present.
Okay. And you've read the comments that the neighbor made about wanting specific information about the kind of drainage mitigation that would take place.
Yes, I've seen the short paragraph of their emails, and the property and the addition is further away from the back of this house, the neighbor's property, which is way in the back. They also already have a gravel area in the back in place, as you see on the plat, registered plat in there, that I don't think that would impact so much water going in there. But we have plans for drainage, and we will have plans for any kind of whether we create a barrier or anything else that this water, it ever goes any further than this to impact that neighbor.
Thank you.
She's the homeowner.
Sure.
Sure. Why not? Welcome.
Thank you for allowing me to
Could you state your name for the record?
Hi, my name is Sahara Jevin. I'm one of the homeowners at the property. And so, yeah, to address my neighbor's concern about the drainage towards the back of her house. So we are naturally geographically located at like the lowest point on our street. And so when a downpour comes, the water goes towards like the back end of the street. Like if you see this gravel area where the garden beds are, like on the property, towards like the water just pulls between our property and my neighbor's and 1029th Street property. So ever since we took over the ownership, we have tried, we have put some measures into place to mitigate that. And we do plan to address that additionally, because I would like to either hopefully install some sort of a underground water collection system so I can use it for my garden. Or the easiest a way might be to have install underground, what are they called? Dry wells that would collect the water coming off of the drain spouts towards the back of the house, and it just address, so the water, if there's a torrential downpour, majority of it gets caught in the drain wells. So, and another thing is I have raised the back end of our property. We brought in soil during 2020 when we built out those garden bed areas, because that whole area was basically covered with like bamboo and trees, overgrown trees that just planted themselves. We have brought in additional soil to cover that. Her concern is more towards the back circle area where it's kind of hard to see, but when we had bamboo back there, the bamboo shoots had reached into their yard. So her husband dug up the shoots and the holes are still there from there. So, and we've addressed this with them before if that's where the water is collecting, we're planning to build a fence there anyways. We can put another berm, just berm it up a little bit higher and add the fence on top of that. So it makes sure the water stays within our property lines. But if you can see from that picture is actually a perfect example. When it goes, like you see where the marigolds and like a little bit of that white flowers are that is the lowest point in our yard. That is at least 5 to 6 feet away from our neighboring property. So,
Okay, so
hopefully this provided additional clarity to that.
your request is for a two-story rear addition?
Yes, and our rear addition is going to, we are only covering the area where the concrete pavers are. We're only trying to cover up to that. I don't want to push further back. One of my, the reasons for requesting the addition towards the side of our house, which is why we had to come into the BZA application, because it encroaches the side setbacks, is because we don't want to push further back into our yard. I want the yard space, and also knowing that, yes, we are at the lowest point of our street. I don't want any water issues going into our basement or any of that nature. So.
Thank you.
So we designed our home to minimize that water.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Mellis.
I think
Mrs.
Ms.
Clark.
Clark
I was going to ask if a civil engineer had done a study or looked at the area and been provided.
We have soil studies ourselves, but none of this is necessary for the BZA application that we have done. And for this, basically the reason that is even becoming to a BZA, we stayed parallel to the existing property line, but the non-uniform way of this house, it causes encroachment to the side setbacks.
But I see, the rear addition is by right?
Yes.
I was going to confirm that with staff that this rear addition does not encroach into the rear setback, just the left side of.
Just the upper left.
Yeah, the scope of the request does not entail rear setback relief, so the rear setback is considered by right.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for this applicant?
I think we got a speaker. So.
Yeah. Because I was just going to say, I have some thoughts, but I would like to hear from the speaker before I make my comments. Thank you. Is Mr. Osgo here? And Miss Osgo, sorry.
Good evening, BZA members. Thank you for your consideration this evening. My name is Rosamunda Osgo, and I live behind the applicant for the special use permit. Our support for the permit is conditional on a water mitigation plan, and I'm asking the board to please make a drainage plan a condition of the permitting for the following reasons. A build out without a drainage plan will increase drainage to our lot. Water runoff from the applicant's property to ours is a significant problem right now. There's no water mitigation on their property today. Water flows directly from their yard to ours, causing significant water issues for us. If you look at Exhibit 5 and 6 in your packets, there's a straight line of water that runs from the puddles in the application yard to ours. And this has not always been the case. Excess drainage to our lot is the result of modifications the applicant made, such as making their property slope towards ours rather than away, removing trees and bamboo, and the absence of any corresponding mitigation plan as well. So we learned from our mistakes, which is why I'm here tonight. We want to make sure that this is not repeated or compounded. Exhibit 4 shows our yard in 2018 before the applicant made modifications and we had no water runoff whatsoever. Exhibits 5 through 9 show our yard now as a result of constant drainage from the applicant's lot. And it's not a trickle, it's a swamp. To add to this water situation with no mitigation plan would be negligent and unfair to us. Storm management is a hot topic in Arlington, and we're asking the BZA to please make a drainage solution a condition of the permit so we do not get more water runoff. In our letter, we have included the specific language we're requesting. Thank you for your consideration with this request.
Thank you. Are there questions for the speaker?
So your specific request is that there be a civil engineer study and design of drainage and water management? Is that your request?
Correct.
Have you had an opportunity to discuss this with your neighbor?
We have not. I'm actually stupefied that I saw a letter in the package saying that we have agreed to this. It was Exhibit 2 in my attachments. There has been no engagement. We actually were kind of sideswiped because we did not know that applicants had filed plans in December. We did not know that a special use permit was requested. We did not know that letters of support from neighbors were requested in January. None was requested by us, and we stand to be the most impacted by this. The applicant submitted this letter to the BZA, which is Exhibit 2 my package, stating that we had no concerns with this without even checking with us first. And lastly, we informed the applicants last week in writing of our concerns around drainage and requested information on their drainage plan, and they never responded.
Okay. Do you feel like a discussion with the applicant would be worthwhile?
Excuse me?
Do you feel that further discussion, for you to have an opportunity to discuss this with your neighbor, would be worthwhile?
Yes and no. I kind of feel we've been sideswiped by this for the reasons I just stated. For instance, having letters of support from everybody except for us. And again, we'd be the most impacted. Nobody else is going to be impacted by the drainage the way we are. And the fact that the applicant took it upon themselves to say that we had no objection to this was really stupefying. So I'm happy to talk. I've lived in the house for a long time. I think I'm a very neighborly person, but at the same time, I don't think that this has been very forthright. That's why we're asking the county to please intervene and make sure that there's a civil engineer study, that there is a drainage plan, and that it's filed with the county and that that's followed. And I think that's a little bit what I heard tonight. We're thinking about doing this, we're thinking about doing that. There are no specifics. So it's really not fair to us. And as you can see, again, it's not a trickle. We're talking about tremendous amount of drainage, tremendous.
Are you in a position to evaluate their suggestions? If they were to give you an array of possibilities, are you in a position to evaluate whether you would find those acceptable?
I mean, I'd prefer to leave it to the experts. I know a little bit about wells and pumps and French drains, but certainly not enough, given the quantity of water that's pouring on our lot now, and that's going to continue. An addition is going to make it worse. I don't feel that I have the expertise to say this would work or not. And I think if somebody could do an analysis, you know, an expert, that would be much more beneficial.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Freshman.
listening to the discussion and the speaker thus far, it seems to me that there's a breach of outreach, and there's also an issue of drainage that I don't think a condition can address. So when it comes time, I would suggest a deferral to December, during which time something very specific with regard to drainage in concert with the impacted neighbor be undertaken.
Does anyone else have any comments or questions or concerns? Ms. Malice.
I tend to agree with Ms. Freshman. I think the difficulty is evaluating, you know, you've said, you know, you have difficulty evaluating the plan. So it would be incumbent on you to provide expertise from your standpoint to evaluate anything that they offered. I think. I don't think that the county can certify to you that, you know, they're, you know, somebody makes up a plan, you're still going to have to evaluate it, right? So I'm inclined to agree to a deferral with the idea that, you know, you get together with your neighbors and come up with specific solutions that you can, you know, both live with. But it would be incumbent on you to, whatever expertise you lack in evaluating them, that you would have to figure out how to get that. That's my view, because I don't think that we can, as Ms. Freshman said, we can write a condition that we would know the outcome of, and whether that would be a good solution or not.
I would not be against a deferral. If this board were forced to vote today, I don't know where we would come out on this one. I think that would be a tough call. I just want to take, and I don't know where I would come out even, but my initial thought would be, you know, one of the findings we have to make in order to approve a use permit is, would the proposal be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to property or improvements in the neighborhood? And you know, one of my initial thoughts were that clearly there's a drainage problem that pre-existed this project. And so I'm struggling with trying to determine, if we allow this project to go forward, will that make the current condition worse, or would we be asking this, would we be trying to rectify a past wrong with the clear water problem that we have on this property? And I'm not sure how to make that determination, right? And so, you know, I don't know, and the applicant can speak to whether there is any hope here to come to some kind of agreed drainage plan, which is probably going to involve hiring, you know, a drainage, you know, some cost of getting a proposal for some drainage expert, and probably some increased costs as well. But I'm not entirely convinced that this project, this project is not obviously going to be responsible for all the drainage problems on the property, but it is our role to make sure that this doesn't make it worse.
I would agree with that, you know, and the by right part of it, obviously we can't, but there is a ask
that's exactly
from
right.
us, and to the extent there is an ask from us,
That's exactly right.
You know, we would be contributing to a problem in that case. Are you following the distinction? Part of this project could be built by right without any permission from us. And so we're struggling, you know, and that's obviously could be the larger part of your problem, right? But not all of it is. And so, you know, the part that we could also be, you know, contributing. But yes, I agree with Ms. Freshman that, you know, the outreach portion needs some work, and that we would have expected that there'd be a conversation with you about the project.
I would have expected that as well. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here.
We appreciate your coming out.
Would, before we defer, I would,
Talk to the applicant.
that exactly, I would be interested to hear how the applicant feels about now what this neighbor has had to say, Ms. Osgo, and
And the
thoughts,
direction that we're taking.
and thoughts on the deferral.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the board about their opinions about this. But I think the placement of this board is, first of all, the by right of building this addition on the back and on the side, and the left side, did not need any of this application or apply for Board of Zoning. The problem that she experiences right now is not something new. It's something that it exists or pre-existed before this project even go on. And with this project, we are trying to mitigate and placement of drainage to improve upon what we are building for the property, for the homeowner, as well as for the adjacent properties. So I am not opposed to having a condition put in that we improve upon the drainage for it. But I don't think it's fair to the homeowners to ask for deferral to come up with a solution that has nothing to do with the application and the building as it stands, because this condition is pre-existent, and what she's experienced is pre-existent before the addition even goes up.
So,
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Malice.
So so there's one issue Ms. Freshman raised. You did not talk to this neighbor.
I'm sorry?
You did not talk to this neighbor.
Well, the homeowner approached and that
Okay,
could not
that's-
get a hold of her.
All right, that's one. So number two, you say that there are going to be things that you're going to do to make things better. I think that's what she's asking for. What we're asking is that you take the time to sit down with her and show her what those things are.
And I'm gonna say what I just said to the rear neighbor, Ms. Osgo, is that one of the findings that this board must make is that the proposal would not be detrimental to the ... injurious or to property or improvements in the neighborhood. And, this board doesn't have the expertise to determine what is or what isn't injurious to surrounding properties. And, there clearly is a water problem on this property that is pre-existing, but adding, square footage of roof that is not permeable like a deck would be is, I think would be arguably affect that water problem. And if you were to ask this board to go without a deferral and to make a decision tonight, I'm not sure you would like where that decision would go. Again, I have not talked to my colleagues, so I don't know what that would be. But we have to proactively make that finding in order to approve this use permit. And I'm not there to make that finding yet. Not saying I can't get there, but if I were to be asked right now, I would probably lean towards a no. And yes, you can take that no and go and build some of this project by right, but you're not here to ask for a by right option.
A portion of this application is deck that is encroaches to the BZA, to the setbacks. So it is permeable areas. That is a deck. It's not all deck.
We're looking at a proposal as a whole, though. We're not ignoring the by right option and only approving the not by right option. And that's part of the problem that we have as a board is that, separating the two would be almost impossible for us to do. So we don't do that. And again, I'm just one of 4 members, and my 3 esteemed colleagues here could completely disagree with my line of thinking here. But that's just kind of where I'm at is I'm not ready to make that finding because I believe that, a speaker has made a good showing that there's a current problem, but then this is likely to make this problem worse. I can't say that this would not be injurious to property or improvements in the neighborhood. If any other colleagues have anything to add to that, like I said, I would support a deferral. I probably would not support an approval of this application, and I don't know where my colleagues are. And thus I was asking the applicant how he felt about a deferral to December, or if he wanted us to take a vote on the merits of this application at the moment.
May confer with the homeowners.
Thank you. Does anyone else on the board have any discussion?
Is the discussion with the board?
I think the discussion's with the board at this point.
I've already said my piece.
Yes, this is true.
I appreciate that the part of the application is by right, but by coming to us with an exception beyond the by right, then you open up a can of worms potentially to address existing conditions that otherwise are just sort of left between neighbors to resolve. And so that's why I suggested that it may be something they can work out between them, and there may not have to be extensive or expensive expertise brought in. But nevertheless, I think that especially since there wasn't any discussion prior to this meeting between the most affected neighbor, they need to invest a little more time in sorting it all out, and in the process finding some creative solutions that address an existing problem that certainly could be exacerbated, but in any case is going to remain existing.
Thank you, Ms. Freshman. And I would agree with just about all of what you said. I would just add that, you know, I am not convinced that this has to solve all of the water problems, but
no.
My personal view is that we need to be assured as a board that this isn't going to make it worse. And I'm not there yet. And some goodwill going to solving some of these water problems, which clearly exist, would probably be helpful as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, do I have any motions?
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Malice.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals defer the use permit V-11877-23-UP-1 to the December BZA hearing.
December 13.
Thank you. To the December 13.
A motion for a deferral to the December 13th hearing made by Ms. Malice, seconded by Ms. Freshman. Any further discussion with the board?
Ms.
Malice.
I would hope that this results in some concrete proposals to the neighbor. That's my hope. Whether you guys can get there or not will be up to you, but that's what I'm going to be looking for.
Thank you.
And that, you know, I think that this board could go either way on this project. And so, you know, the Ms. Osgo with the water problems might not like what we rule if there's not an agreement, and the applicant might not like how this board goes if we go with on the other way. And so I would just, you know, encourage all parties to really keep an open mind and work together.
Yeah. Thank you.
I will call the roll. Ms. Malice.
Aye.
Ms. Freshman.
Aye.
Ms. Clark.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Deferral passes 4-0. Mr. Bowen, can you please call number 611878?
Yes, Mr. Kaplan, the next case on the agenda is case number V-11878-23-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Gerardo Perez on behalf of Malone Link and Sheldon Little II, the owners, to permit a left side setback of 3.9 feet to the wall, 2.6 feet to the eaves, instead of 8 feet to the wall, 5 feet to the eaves as required, regarding the enclosure of an existing non-conforming carport to an existing one-family dwelling on a corner lot in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 2822 Fort Scott Drive within the Arlington Ridge Civic Association. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. As of the start of this hearing, we had not received any supplemental material for this case.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Do we have any questions for staff on this application? Is the applicant with us?
Hello, this is Gerardo Perez. I am the agent speaking on behalf of the owners, Malin Link and Sheldon Little II.
Welcome. Would you like to speak to this application?
The only thing I would like to say is that we do agree with the recommendation to adopt the proposed conditions for this use permit. And so I'm also available to answer any questions if the staff or the board has them.
Thank you. Do we have any questions of this applicant? Yes,
Mr.
Ms. Mallon.
Chairman, were you the person that collected neighborhood feedback?
So I provided Ms. Malin with the neighborhood outreach form, and they themselves went out and reached out to the neighbors.
I only see 3 names. Do you have more than 3 names?
Well, we reached out to a total of 6 neighbors, the ones who would be closest to the property. The other 3, we never, the owner went personally to their homes, but never did we get any contact back from them to provide that to you. But the attempt was made more than once.
Mr. Bowen? This applicant is asking for a left side setback relief to enclose the porch. Can you just clarify for me on the tax map where the left side is?
Yes, just a moment. Let me pull up the plat for the property.
It's to the south.
Don't tell left, right.
So 2806 is the most affected neighbor here?
That is
Yes.
correct.
And can we see
Thank you, Meg.
pictures of that again? Of the porch that we're enclosing? So it is actually mostly enclosed already.
It's already closed.
It's only lacking windows. It doesn't look like your average carport.
Right. So I guess discussion with the board, clearly I've already started. My thoughts are, normally this board takes really high weight to neighborhood feedback. In this case, the most affected neighbor has provided feedback, and enclosing what I would consider a mostly enclosed porch already is probably not a huge ask. And so I would be in favor of this and not a deferral. But colleagues, do your pleasure.
I agree.
Motions then,
Motion?
please. Virtually.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the attached proposed resolution granting use permit V-11878-23-UP1, subject to the conditions listed.
I'll second.
A motion made by Ms. Freshman for approval, seconded by Ms. Clark. Any further discussion? I will call the roll. Ms. Malice.
Aye.
Ms. Freshman.
Aye.
Ms. Clark.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion to pass this use permit passes 4-0. Thank you, and enjoy your mostly enclosed carport.
Thank you so much for your help.
Mr. Bowen, I believe number 11879 is next.
Yes, Mr. Kaplan, I agree with that statement. The next case on the agenda is case number V-11879-23-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Stephen Tinter on behalf of Ronald and Mary Wang, the owner, to permit a street setback of 7.9 feet to the proposed porch, 7.4 feet to the porch eave, instead of 21 feet to the porch, 19.5 feet to the porch eaves, as required from 27th Street North, regarding the expansion of an existing non-conforming screen porch to an existing one-family dwelling on a corner lot in the R6 zoning district on the premises known known as 2701 North Greenbrier Street within the Yorktown Civic Association. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution approving the use permit request with conditions. And as of the start of the BZA hearing this evening, we had not received any supplemental material for this case.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Are there any questions for staff?
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Malice?
I guess it really doesn't matter where the front of the house is in this case, because both setbacks apply. Setbacks are it's the same on both sides of the corner.
For zoning purposes, it's always the shorter side that fronts the street, so it would be the Greenbrier Street frontage.
Yeah. They're asking for a 7.9, and I was looking at the comps, and also if you look at the tax map, there really is no place in this neighborhood that has that narrow a street frontage. The nearest comps are almost a quarter mile away. I mention that only because, not because I think that this is unreasonable, but next time you do a staff report for the neighbor, you're going to show that this is, a comparable. And I don't know what the solution around that is.
Yeah, I would say we have, kind of an unofficial apology that's been discussed at previous BZA work sessions, that we generally keep our limit of where we look and consider like the neighborhood, quote unquote, to be about 1,000 feet.
Right.
So if we find stuff within 1,000 feet, plus or minus maybe a few hundred feet, we put them in the staff report as well. In some cases, we do see evidence of, setbacks that do look closer, but unfortunately, we don't have plats on file to verify as much. So we put the examples we can find and have records for to confirm.
So my concern here is, should we adopt this? We are setting a precedent, of a very narrow setback to the street in this neighborhood where there's nothing like that already. And that precedent, then this property gets used to justify other ones. And in this case, because it's a corner, I can see that there's reason that this could be approvable, but going down the street, right, for all the neighbors that are on 27th Street, would staff then say that they also should be allowed a 7.9 setback based on this precedent?
Perhaps. It depends on the proposal, depends on, what we can find in our records, to confirm, comparable wise, if we could find if we see an air conditioning unit, we might not, say that's a comparable example to a 2-story addition or something. But yeah, we would certainly take it into consideration if we have a BZA approval for this project. It could be used as an example in future staff reports.
That's my
I have
question.
a comment. Just, it seems to me it's a house that predates the zoning, and so we have maybe not a similar exact configuration, but similar kinds of challenges from time to time. And it does appear that they're trying to just square off the porch to line up with the by right addition that they've already put on the back of the house. So I understand Ms. Malice's point, but I do think that, given the odd shape of the lot and the odd configuration of the street itself, that it's not unreasonable, given that the house already exists, to allow this extension.
Yeah, if the BZA is interested, I can, provide a follow-up comment to that statement as well.
Sure.
Yeah, really, the closest point of the street setback is, in fact, more or less existing already, that is being rebuilt. But really the relief they're seeking is because they're doing an expansion I would say inland, to the left of that setback. And, the new work that is being proposed is much further from the street.
Right.
That was I was just, I hesitated to say sure because I was just about to question staff about if a neighbor wanted to do a 7.9 foot setback, assuming they had a plat, then this would be a comp anyway, and that this comp would not be a new comp, at least for that
True.
left side setback. And for the right side setback, same issue. It's 9.9 feet with the let's say top right corner anyway. And what are we asking for? What's our right side setback ask?
Sorry, from the street, it's 7.9 feet.
7.9. So we are going a little bit smaller on the right-hand side, but not the left-hand side, or whatever that's.
The only difference is that next time it shows up, it'll say BZA approved 7.9.
Fair
As
enough.
opposed to it was built before
Fair.
the zoning administration.
Perhaps, depending on which records we look at, which plat we pull or which, application comes up first.
We could put an asterisk on that. I'm sorry, is the applicant with us? Let's hear from the applicant or the applicant agent.
I'm actually the applicant. I think the owner's also on the call, so I'd let them.
Are you
handle it.
Mr. Tinter?
I'm Mr. Tinter, yes,
Yes.
just up in the building with Cook Brothers.
Are you, are we hearing from both, or are you speaking on behalf of the applicant today?
No, I think they were going to speak. I think
Okay.
I just had some additional stuff. If there was any other questions,
Mr. and Mrs. Wang.
Hey, good evening. Let me get my camera on here. Hey, my name is Ronald Wang. On behalf of myself and my wife, Mary, I thank you for your time this evening and appreciate the time that everyone's put in to review this application. We respectfully request that the board accept the recommendation of the staff report to extend the roof of our existing porch to meet the addition as detailed in the application and has been discussed. The only additional thing we have to add is that our immediate neighbor to the north at 2705 Greenbrier, it's a rental home. So we didn't initially obtain that owner's signature because they live in Seattle. But since the time of this application, we have actually obtained that signature from that owner. And I believe Mr. Tinter there has a copy of that for you.
I emailed that to Mr. Bowen. Today we got that, and he said it was too late to put it into the file, but he said I could bring some copies. So if you'd like, I have signed copies to present.
Thank you.
That has that additional signature.
Our new plan worked.
Does he have any other comments? Does the applicant have any more comments?
Do you have any more comments?
I don't.
Did you have any brief additions?
No, I think that the discussion was exactly what I would have pointed out, is that there's an existing structure there that's really the most non-conforming that is going to be there, whether the permission is granted. We're just asking to extend it over by about 3 feet. But I think because of the structural work, to redo the screening is why they included that into the application. So.
Any questions of the applicant or the applicant's agent? Discussion with the board.
Motion?
Motion, Ms. Freshman.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the attached proposed resolution granting use permit V-11879-23-UP1, subject to the conditions listed.
Write it out. Ms. Clark.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Freshman and seconded by Ms. Clark. Is there any discussion? I'll just quickly say that I think this is a pretty close case and I would be inclined to vote in favor. But I think it is pretty close. Ms. Malice.
Aye.
Ms. Freshman.
Aye.
Ms. Clark.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Project passes 4-0 for approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bowen, will you please call number 8, which is also V-11880.
Yes, Mr. Kaplan, the next case is case number V-11880-23-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Stephen Tinter on behalf of Kevin and Julie Ann Meredith, the owners, to permit a street setback of 15.3 feet to the addition wall, 11.1 feet to the addition eaves instead of 25 feet to the wall, 21 feet to the eaves as required from North 8th Street North, regarding a new second-story addition above an encroaching garage to an existing one-family dwelling on a corner lot in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 5601 8th Street North within the Bluemont Civic Association. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution approving the use permit request with conditions. And similar to the last case, we did receive some supplemental material that came in at about 3:45 this afternoon, so we did not include it in the packet. And Mr. Tinter, I believe, might have copies for us again.
Thank you. Are there questions for staff before I hear from the applicant? Ms. Malice.
I do have a question for staff. It's a general question.
Okay.
Miss Ryan, could you bring the pictures back up? While we're gathering thoughts for questions. Mr. Bone, are you ready for questions to be grilled?
Yes, I am.
So where in the zoning ordinance does it describe when something can be modified that is over coverage and over, it's out of whack with the variance. Let's just put it that way. Is there some place that explains under what conditions the applicant does need a variance versus doesn't need a variance to come in and ask for more?
Article 16, governs nonconformities. So anything to do with nonconformities is regulated by Article 16. In addition to that statement, sometimes, the zoning administrator is charged with administrating, enforcing, and interpreting the zoning ordinance. So sometimes an interpretation is necessary. In terms of nonconformities, they can be evaluated I would say generally on a case-by-case basis. And when it comes to nonconformities, so long generally, like for a coverage issue, for instance, if the coverage is not increasing, regardless if it's nonconforming, if it does not increase by virtue of a proposal, we would not consider that to require a variance. It's a general policy.
So it might not be spelled out any place specifically. It becomes a decision.
Yes, I would say nonconformities are looked at in a case-by-case basis in regard to the specific language of Article 16 and compared to it to kind of see how they comply with it.
Thank you.
Mr. Bowen, I might have missed this in the staff report. I've had a long week, but I am surprised to see these pictures now that are under construction.
There's currently a building permit for it, so they can go above by right, and they already have a building permit to go over the existing walls. It's the garage and porches. If it's encroaching on certain setbacks, they can't go above by right. In this particular case, they're going above everything but the garage, but this request is to go above the garage.
So is that a separate building permit?
They would need to apply or do a revision.
So, okay, so that's,
So they don't have one yet.
I
They're
understand,
asking for
right?
the
So,
request now.
so the current work is not related to what's before us now, just going over the garage?
Yeah, they're just going over the
Because
existing.
most applicants would do that all together and come before us as a package.
And also in their plans, they're showing too, they kind of outlined in blue what's the request for the BZA, and then what's non-colored is the addition that they're doing for the building permit, and they have that number listed as well on the proposed site plan.
And I'll add a quick note to Meg's comments. I agree that, an active revision to the building permit could be pursued after the BZA makes a decision on this case. If they approve it, the applicants could pursue an active building permit revision, or they have an option to do a separate building permit if they wish. Sometimes people's plans depend on kind of how they want to stage construction, their timelines, so they have options. In this case, I believe they might have wanted to do the addition over the main house first, and then separately, not delay that project, and then separately pursue the approval of the addition of the garage.
And my concerns that I'm raising are less to do with this application and more to do with just process. And
If I can comment to that.
No, I don't have.
Okay.
You're fine. Because
Okay.
I'm trying to relate this back to a other case. So like if an applicant was working on a project, half by right, half not by right, they could clearly pursue their by right and then tack on the not by right later, just like this applicant is doing.
I would agree with that general approach, yes.
That's just, we don't see, I have not seen this happen too often in my 2 years here now. So that's why I'm asking these questions. Much less to do with about this specific application. Thank you. Thank you. Are we ready to hear from the applicant? Please.
Hey, I'm Kevin Meredith. I've lived in this house since 2016 with my wife. We appreciate your time and consideration and all the efforts you guys do, but I think the letter speaks for itself. So happy to answer any questions with my rep Steve here as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any further questions or discussion with the board?
I think I'm just still I think this is approvable. I'm just processing the variance and the fact that we're coming in for a use permit.
That we're over coverage and we're coming in for a use permit.
And yeah, we're over coverage coming in for use permit, and it's really, but we're just building over something that is an existing setback, right? That's it.
Correct. And yeah, Article 16 governing nonconformity says you can build straight up over building walls, with the exception of, the existing porches and garages. So the addition over the garage requires the use permit for setback relief.
So this case was not a judgment call for you. This is standard policy.
Yeah, and for us, it was a pretty standard case.
Yeah, we're not we're a little slow, I guess.
We don't see, I can't remember seeing something like this before.
Well,
right?
sometimes, I mean, often if there's a nonconformity, you have to come in with a variance if you're going to do anything for it.
But in this case, if we were adding square foot, we would be coming in
Yeah.
for a variance, but we're not adding a square foot. So
Yes.
We were very careful with like the front overhang, because really it's an interesting case because we didn't realize that it was going to even need the use permit
Right.
because it's an unfinished attic now above the garage and it's going to be unfinished attic. There's no basement in this house. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to make it just fit the scale of the house a little more. But we were very careful even not to put posts down on the front porch because we knew that would make it a porch instead of an overhang. And we sent pictures, and I don't know if they made it in, but before pictures, I printed them because I didn't see them with the material. But the overhangs that we're asking to put on the front porch was exactly what was there before. We just couldn't keep it and kind of grandfather it because of the way the roof was built. We had to cut it off to rebuild it. So again, it's a self-supported structure, no bigger than what was there. And the other overhangs are actually, we're bringing back. If you look at the picture here, the garage overhang is about 4 feet. We're bringing it back. So lessening that front encroachment, I think, overall.
And I know we often give these warnings when applicants are close to their allotted coverage. Obviously, we are over coverage, and this board would find a variance probably a lot harder to give. And I know my experience with Cook Brothers, you are well aware of that. So don't go over. A remarkable change on this.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Malice,
prepared to make a motion?
please go ahead.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit B-11880-23-UP-1, subject to the conditions listed.
I'll second.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Malice, seconded by Ms. Clark. Any further discussion? I will call the roll. Ms. Malice?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Passes 4-0. Good luck.
Thank you very
2
much.
in a row for you. Thank you. Mr. Bowen, I believe this board previously approved number 9, 11881, and number 10, 11881. So that brings us to number 11 as our next case, V-11882.
Mr. Kaplan, I agree with that statement. The next case on the agenda that is not a case that we earlier approved was case number V-11882-23-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Andy and Adrielle Custer, the owners, to permit a street setback of 15 feet to the proposed deck instead of 21 feet as required from North Pershing Drive regarding a new front deck addition to an existing one-family dwelling in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 3407 North Pershing Drive within the Ashton Heights Civic Association. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution approving the use permit request with conditions. Please note that we did receive supplemental material for this case that came in after the application packets were assembled and printed. This is a letter of support from a neighbor.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Are there questions for staff for this application? Ms. Mallon?
What's the difference between a deck and a stoop when it's in the front of the house? This is being referred to as a deck. Are there different rules for decks than stoops?
I will be happy. I believe we have definitions for both in the zoning ordinance, so I'll pull it up and get the exact language for you.
Okay, and is there a difference in how they're treated, the rules? Because the ordinance requirements that are in our staff report, I think, well, yeah, they've referred everything. So just wondered why we called it a deck and not a stoop.
Yeah, we get, there's a subsection of the zoning ordinance, which is the one that's cited in the staff report, which has a large variety of exceptions that get a general 4-foot encroachment into required setbacks.
Is the applicant with us?
I am.
Mr. Custer,
Yes.
would you like to speak to your application?
So basically, we wanted to cover over the concrete steps, as you can see in the photos, with a small 45 square foot deck, would then have additional steps which would lead towards the street itself, which got us into the setback situation. The primary reason for doing it, we've been in the house for about 50 years, but we've always fretted over the safety of those steps leading right up to that front door. And so the entry deck will allow you to reach a level, actually open the door, manipulate around and enter safely and efficiently. And basically that's what we're asking for.
Thank you. Do we have questions for this applicant? Ms. Jones?
It looks like you have absolutely no landing outside your front door. Is that true, or is that just an illusion?
There is no landing at that door. That
It's
was, this is an old Sears house. It was, the front porch was enclosed when we purchased it in 1978. It had already been enclosed. And so the steps were just like this. It's been that way ever since. And we've fretted over it. We worry about trick-or-treaters. We worry about, surprisingly, solicitors, anyone that might be approaching there and trying to come in. If you look closely, you'll note that we've actually removed the glass from that front storm door so that when the door itself opens, you can just step directly into the enclosed porch.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that problem. Thank you. Any information for staff on decks versus?
Yes, I have those definitions ready.
And I pulled them up on the screen.
Okay, thank you, Meg. Great. I'll read it now. A deck is a flat, unenclosed platform that is supported by post. And then moving ahead a few pages in our definitions to stoop. A stoop is a raised platform that serves as the entrance to a building, may be roofed over, has no supporting post, and is not enclosed.
Go back to deck for a minute. A flat, unenclosed that is supported by posts. Is that from below or above?
From below.
From below. Okay, because I also see there's a condition here that says the front deck shall not be further built over or enclosed. And that's so they
Meaning we can't put a roof on it.
You can't put a little awning on it.
Correct.
You know, like people often have.
I assume the applicant does not want to put a roof on it.
There's no intention to do so, no.
So why did you choose deck instead of stoop? The stoop, he would have had more flexibility to build over.
Can you scroll back down to stoop?
I think in another case, Miss Malice.
Supporting posts, is that the difference?
This is I would have proposed a condition, even if it was technically classified as a stoop because it wasn't supported by posts, we still would have imposed or suggested a condition that it not be further built over and enclosed. That's a pretty standard language that we recommend as our condition.
On a porch, yes, but on a stoop, really?
This can't be a stoop because it's supported by posts.
Yeah.
If they're adding eaves or brand new eaves or that roof, that would encroach into the required 21-foot setback. So in this case, this deck is proposed to be 15 feet away, so that if there was eaves proposed, that would also need to be advertised as well and shown in the proposal.
All right, this is just an education. Thank you.
Right, we're just trying to, if the applicant were wanting a porch, this could be a 2-for-1, but he has clearly indicated he does not.
Yeah.
So any motions?
Sure.
Ms.
I
Freshman.
move Board of Zoning Appeals approve the attached proposed resolution granting use permit V-11882-23-UP1, subject to the conditions listed.
Second.
A motion made by Ms. Freshman and seconded by Ms. Clark. Hearing no further discussion, I will call the roll. Ms. Malice,
Aye.
Ms. Freshman,
Aye.
Ms. Clark,
Aye.
chair votes aye. The porch, not a stoop, passes 4-0. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bowen, where are we at here? We are at 82. Number 12, V-11883.
I agree that we were at that same location. So the next case is case number V-11883-23-UP-1. This is a use permit request by Bryce Enterprises LLC, the owner, to permit a right side setback of 2.3 feet to the addition wall and eave instead of 10 feet to the wall, 6 feet to the eave as required, to permit a left side setback of 8.9 feet to the wall instead of 10 feet to the wall as required, to permit a total aggregate side yard width of 11.2 feet instead of 18 feet as required, regarding after the fact approval for a 2-story right side addition with basement and 2-story rear addition with basement to an existing 1-family dwelling in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 5712 26th Street North, Leeway Overley Civic Association. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. Please note that we had an additional neighbor who signed up to speak on this item by the names of Wells Harrell, but I believe we received a subsequent notice that he would not be able to speak tonight.
Do you know if he's speaking for favor or against?
And we do not know what his comments were going to be.
Okay, thank you.
He lives over 4,000 feet away from the subject property,
Okay.
just for reference.
Maybe the applicant will know. Is the applicant is with us? Would you like to speak?
Yes, sir. This is just simply a rebuild. We did not touch the basement. During the construction process, we discovered a significant termite damage. My team, yes, please go back. Yeah. So all of that was existing. I do believe I submitted to the board pre-existing conditions. We simply repaired. Had I known all of this, I would ask for approval first. We do have obtained the 12 signatures. From 26th Street, we have signature from 5723, 5719, and 5715, 5716, 5708 per staff recommendation. We also knocked on the door on 25th Street, which is directly behind us, 5723 on 25th, 5719 on 25th, and 5715 on 25th. In addition to that, we also have obtained a signature on 26th Street, 5727, 2704, 5711, 5700, and 2537 from Lexington Street.
Thank you. Questions for the applicant?
Sure.
Malice, please.
But you, doesn't look like you got a signature from your rear neighbor. Is that true?
Yes, we have been there twice.
5719?
Yes, we have been there twice. Unfortunately, we could not get hold of anyone, but we do have the signatures from directly across the street where they're going to have to look at the home every single day. And we do have this neighbor signature to the left, to the right, and everyone on the entire street, along with the properties behind, to the left, and to the right.
And one more question. Did you write the statement of justification?
Yes, ma'am.
In it, you say that the BZA process has caused a hardship.
Mm-hmm.
And you go on that, it's become an eyesore and because it's unfinished and there's rot due to the plywood being exposed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at your application to the BZA, and it says that you applied in August. You were accepted in September, and here you are in October.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that 2 months is an unreasonable period of time?
No, I do not. And personally, that's just because I'm very inexperienced with the Arlington BZA process. It certainly wasn't a bad remark. It's just that we had a couple of neighbors who were inquiring, when are we going to do something with the side porch? Because all of the neighbor on 26th Street have the similar porch, same thing with the neighbor to the left and neighbor to the right, along with a couple of properties down. And when I was knocking on the doors and all the neighbor was just asking when I can finish when we are able to finish the project. That's all.
So in that 2-month period, it caused rot of the plywood?
Yes, if you go back to the pictures, and obviously had I known, which is, if there's the next time, and I would certainly not do that way, but you can see there was a brand new plywood that put in there. You can see the aging on the exterior plywood per inspector's request. Do not touch anything on the right-hand side. So right now, there is a certain wood rots, and then we'll have to replace that.
So when did the inspector tell you to stop work?
In July. So,
Okay, so- Yeah.
I had a conversation with Mr. Bowen. He went talked to the zoning staff, and at the end of July, early August, we were recommended to go to. We were told to go to the BZA process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bowen, I assume we don't know when the original approval for that porch that is being remade was. Is that correct?
The one that's being replaced.
Yes.
I do not know that offhand.
figured.
I believe it may have been, and perhaps Mr. Koo can correct me. I believe it might have been original to the house, and I can look up in real estate assessments data when the house was built.
No,
Yes, sir. That the side porch was I guess it came with a house from original built, because if you go down the street, you will see everyone has a similar setup.
Great. Any more questions, discussion, or motions?
Motion?
Please.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the attached proposed resolution granting use permit V-11883-23-UP1, subject to the conditions listed.
Second.
Another use permit motion by Ms. Freshman and seconded by Ms. Clark. Any further discussion? I will call the roll. Ms. Malice.
Aye.
Ms. Freshman.
Aye.
Ms. Clark.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Use permit passes 4-0. Enjoy your porch.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Bowen, I believe we have previously approved 13 and 14, 11884 and 11885. So that brings us to our 15th and final case for the night, V-11886-23-UP-2.
I am in agreement with that statement, Mr. Kaplan. The last case on the agenda for this evening is case number V-11886-23-UP-2. This is a use permit request by Steve Inch on behalf of Kelly Valancourt and Stephen Strobeck, the owners, to permit a left side setback of 7.4 feet to the wall instead of 8 feet as required, and a total aggregate side yard width of 18.7 feet instead of 21 feet as required, regarding a 2-story left side addition over an encroaching garage, a 2-story front addition, a new stoop, and the expansion of a second story in the R8 zoning district on the premises known as 2241 North Vermont Street within the Donaldson Run Civic Association. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions. Please note there is supplemental material on this case that came in after the application packet was assembled and printed. This is a letter from the applicant requesting to be moved in the order of the agenda. And we also have additional speakers who have signed up to speak on this case, including Aaron Parker, David Stanley, and Carl Sears.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Do we have questions for staff on this application?
Could you just clarify why we've seen this twice? I mean, my recollection, I looked for differences. I think Mr. Kaplan did send an email to that explanation. I just am baffled. I mean, I can't imagine what the rationale is to go through a separate application and pay another fee. There are no changes, is that correct?
Yeah, I'd be happy to let the applicant, chime in as to their rationale. My understanding is that they would prefer to be heard in October rather than wait till November. And since there was no changes to the application, once we received it, it was not too much of an issue to just re-add it to the docket since we hadn't advertised for the October hearing yet. The only change substantively made to the application is last month, you noted that there was kind of a missing or an incomplete seal on the plat, and the applicant has resubmitted a new plat with a seal.
Well, I think, was it not heard for neighbor support?
Correct. I believe the primary reason for the deferral was neighborhood support, but in conversation with the board, you did note that the plat was missing a seal or was partially missing a seal.
And my memory is that we also deferred this to November because we had a full agenda tonight as opposed to putting it on tonight's agenda.
So now we have two applications for one case. So can we choose which one we're going to hear?
I would
Does it-
say, yeah, the same options on this case you have with any case, approval, denial, or deferral. There's, a variety of things that could happen. If you were inclined to approve this case tonight, we would probably confer with the applicant that they wish to administratively withdraw their case from the November agenda, and we would remove it from that docket.
And I'll point out just for my colleagues, this is also an issue we could address in our bylaw future discussions that will be coming shortly. Any other discussion before I ask to hear from the applicant?
No, let's keep moving.
Keep moving. Please.
Good evening. Steve Inch on behalf of Kelly and Stephen, the owners who are here with us tonight, and also the family, and as Blake mentioned, a number of neighbors. Blake's right, there is a consideration to the planning that went into this large of a project and the moving parts that are involved with the family of four and their arrangements to be out of the house. So there was implication financially and otherwise that made it very important to kind of keep this process moving. So we appreciate that. And as Blake also mentioned, it gave us the opportunity to really clean up our application. There was a seal, there was discussion that we didn't have a seal. We basically cleaned it up and made it more, I would say, very clear of what we're asking for, which is on behalf of the neighbors and the owners. From a construction standpoint, we plan to build this addition over an existing garage, which has been mentioned tonight. That small portion of the garage is over a side yard setback, which is at 7.4 feet rather than the 8 feet. So we're talking about a 7.6 inch variance there. All of our finished space will take the place of an old screened-in porch and also stay completely within the existing footprint of the garage below. As the staff research states, we found that this will be similar with the compatible development of past projects in the surrounding area, have no negative effect on the health and safety of anyone in the neighborhood, as I'm sure they're ready to also attest to, have no negative effects on the public welfare, will not conflict with any master plans, and it will not conflict with any natural landforms. I mentioned from the family and neighborhood perspective, this addition adds an additional bedroom that allows this family of four to stay in the neighborhood and not move. And also the family and neighbors are very happy with the solution to not completely tear down the home and build from new. Again, thank you for your time. And with that, I believe also the homeowners and of course, the additional speakers would like to speak.
Thank you. Any questions for this, the agent, before I bring up the applicant? Applicant.
Hi, good evening. My name is Steven Strobach. I am speaking today on behalf of myself, my wife, my two lovely kids, Sam and Anna, about the property at 2241 North Vermont Street. We love this neighborhood. We enjoy living here. It is our hope and wish that we can raise our kids in this area. And really why I'm up here is on behalf of my son, who is sharing, he's 6, and he's sharing his room with his 4-year-old sister. And this project is going to give him his own room. So he would very much like me to advocate on his behalf and hope that we can get this approved so that he can get his own bedroom.
Thank you. Next time, I think he needs to advocate for himself, but.
Fair enough. Yeah, he didn't think he could reach the microphone.
It lowers.
Yeah, okay.
Do we have questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Okay.
I see we have 3 speakers. Is Miss Parker here?
the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I thank you for your time and your service. I know it takes a lot of work to do what you all do. I'm Erin Parker, a resident of North Vermont Street in the tight-knit Donaldson Run community. Stephen and Kelly are amazing neighbors, and we share the common bonds of friendship, neighborhood, and our boys are best friends. If poor Sam doesn't get his own bedroom, he's moving in with us, as he's declared multiple times, which would be okay. We are absolutely thrilled that they were able to find a solution for the home to keep them in our neighborhood. Furthermore, there is a construction solution that for the home that does not involve any demolition, and it is in keeping with the look and feel of our street. It has no impact on any of our neighbors who so wholeheartedly want them to stay in our very tight-knit street neighborhood. I ask that the BZA grant their project as proposed and in an expedited manner to relieve the distress and the disruption in this wonderful family's lives. I coach these boys on a soccer team, and I see the stress, and I want them to be able to move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Stanley.
My name's David Stanley. We live at 2245 North Vermont Street. My wife and I, Jane Stanley. I just wanted to go on record to make it clear to the board that we fully support the setback that's proposed on our neighbor's house. And I urge you all to approve it and move forward for their benefit and the neighborhood's benefit. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sears.
Hello.
Welcome.
Good evening. I'm Carl Sears, and I'm the next door neighbor of Kelly and Steve and their exceptional children. We've known them for at least 6-7 years. They're great people. Let me say that I've lived in Arlington since 1988. And in 35 years, I've seen a lot of changes, a lot of growth here. My wife, Sheila, who's here, and I raised, we've owned the home that we're in now next door to Steve and Kelly since 2008, 15 years. We raised our son Ryan here. He went to Taylor and local public schools, got a great education. We're a tight-knit neighborhood. We know people up and down the street, old timers, newcomers, a lot of dog walkers, kids, people with exciting, interesting lives. And we're here to really fully support Kelly and Steve's use permit. They're professionals, they're great parents, they're always friendly and helpful. And if we did not see them able to move forward with their modifying their house, otherwise to see them leave, I think would be a loss to our county. I support build up, not tear down, as the best way to build up our community, not cave to those more interested in profit than people. Kelly and Steve are here working hard. They're raising kids, they're settled in, and they want only for their house to meet their family needs. That builds up Arlington and strengthens our community, and that's why I'm here supporting them.
Thank you. Discussion with the board. Motions.
Motion.
Ms. Freshman.
I move Board of Zoning Appeals approve the attached proposed resolution granting use permit V-11886-23-UP2, subject to the conditions listed.
Second.
A motion made by Ms. Freshman and seconded by Ms. Malice. Before I call the roll, I just want to say that, you know, when we got this application last month, I think I can speak for the board that it wasn't that we had issues with the application itself, just the completeness. And I would like to thank the applicant for giving us this complete application and a thorough presentation of your neighbors. And also would like to thank everyone for staying so late in order to complete this application. Miss Malice.
Aye.
Ms. Freshman.
Aye.
Ms. Clark.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. This application passes 4-0. Congratulations. Good perseverance. I assume we'll be withdrawing the next case for next month. Unless you want a second approval. Do you need an email for that, Mr. Bone? Ms. Mallett, yes. We have some more business to attend to. No one here needs to stay unless you have business to attend to, but we're going to take a 5-minute recess. Miss Freshman, are you going to hang around?
Well, yeah, I guess so, but I fear that you're going to add another 30 minutes. That's not going to work for me.
We have a bathroom break.
Okay.
Unavoidable. Apologies for the delay. I know you all have been waiting patiently for several hours or years. Hey, that's not acceptable.
I made it. It's just. Yeah, right there.
I think so. I mean, she's still online.
There's-
Oh, there she is. Okay, we have 4 members back. I understand that we have additional business in terms of a speaker slip received on the order of Mr. Blakely. Is that correct?
Yes, we've received from Mr. Blakely as well as a Mrs. Myers.
Okay. Let's start with Mr. Blakely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
We can.
Very good. I can hear you as well. Mr. Chairman, my name is Craig Blakely. I'm an attorney, and I represent Donald Myers and Moriah West Myers, his wife.
I'm sorry, can you either speak louder or speak closer to your microphone?
See if I can scoot up.
That's much better. Thank you.
Okay, as I said, I'm Craig Blakely. I'm an attorney, and I represent Donald Myers and his wife, Moriah West Myers. They are both physically present in the boardroom this evening. I'm here pursuant to the board's resolution of September 12th of this year, which grants parties that have been wrongfully prevented from appearing before the BZA the right to appear at a regularly scheduled meeting such as this evening's, so that the BZA may take appropriate action to schedule a public hearing on their appeals. On May 11th, 2022, Mr. Myers filed an appeal to the BZA of the April 13 decision of the zoning administrator regarding various zoning and related issues relating to the location of 1425 North Quincy Street in Arlington, which was proposed as a temporary bus depot by Arlington County. The Quincy Street site was subsequently approved by the county and continues to the present time as being used as a bus depot. On May 13th, 2022, Mr. and Mrs. Myers filed an appeal application with the BZA concerning the same zoning determination. Mr. Myers' appeal was canceled, denied by Mr. Blake Bowen on May 12th. Mr. and Mrs. Myers' appeals were canceled by Mr. Bowen on May 18th. They were canceled for the same reason, because Mr. Bowen found that they did not appear to be aggrieved parties with legal standing. I should note that the Myers home is immediately adjacent to the temporary bus terminal, and because of the proximity of that terminal to their home, the Myers are subject to noise, fumes, and light generated by the bus depot. I should also note that in his decisions, Mr. Bowen did not provide any analysis of the reason for his conclusion that they lacked standing. He merely stated that they lacked standing. Pursuant to the board's resolution of September 12, the board found that Mr. Bowen was not authorized to deny those applications on behalf of the BZA. Accordingly, on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Myers, I would like to ask that the board hear their appeals, ideally at its next meeting on November 15. I would also like to reserve the right for them to support the appeal applications by supplementing them in support of the applications by additional events that have taken place prior to the filing of those applications. And because of the length of time that has passed since the filing of the applications, which has been over about a year and a half, I would like to ask for permission to have them review the appeal materials just to make certain that they are full and complete. Mr. Chairman, I also note the provision in the resolution that directs the zoning administrator to, and I'm quoting, forthwith transmit to the full BZA all the papers constituting the record upon which any appeal application was filed, regardless of merit or standing, between March 2022 and the date of that resolution. And I would like to.
Uh-oh. Miss Freshman is still moving, so it's them. Are you able to contact him and tell him to call in? Mr. Bowen probably has a call-in number.
Yes, there is a call-in number and we can pull that up on screen as necessary.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Freshman,
did you already approve the minutes?
we, I think, we have additional changes to the minutes, so we're going to defer them till the next meeting.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think it just waits.
Can I address the group?
Please.
Given the delay here, I'm going to check out, but I will express my support for hearing the appeal. I'm uncertain about whether or not November is appropriate, even though that may be what they want, because it sounds like there's going to be a lot of material to review. And I don't know what the filing deadlines and whatnot are, but I don't object to the hearing the case when the time comes. And if the agenda for November is not too long, then and everyone feels as if they have adequate time to review the materials, then that's fine. But anyway, that's my thing, and I'm good. And so you have my proxy, and you have 3 people anyway, so that should work.
Yeah, Ms. Freshman, we are clearly going to be down Ms. Arthurs and yourself shortly. Do you, if we want to set this for a separate night, do you have any date proposals? Or a separate?
Mr. Chairman, this
separate
is Craig Blakely calling in by phone.
Hey, Mr. Blakely, hold on one second while we wrap up a discussion.
I mean, you're discussing a separate meeting as opposed to the regular meeting?
To the regular one, because my discussion with Mr. Bowen before the meeting about November schedule says November might have picked up a couple more cases.
Yes.
Well, my concern would be the Thanksgiving holiday, and you know
right.
that when are you going to put in another meeting before the December meeting?
Yeah, I think that might be.
But I agree. I mean, I think that appeals typically take an hour at a minimum, depending on the number of speakers. So in a perfect world, a separate night might be good, but I mean, you can always survey people and figure out, when all the rest of our county obligations aren't meeting.
And Mr. Bowen, we would need advertising for 14 days. Is that correct?
Sorry, please repeat the question.
To advertise this hearing, we would need 14 days?
Yes, approximately 14 days at a minimum.
Okay, so we just need 14 days notice. So we can work on scheduling it offline because we just need to pick a date and schedule in 14 days early. So we'll have a discussion with the Blakeleys, the Myers staff, and we won't pick a firm date, but we'll pick a window. And then I will coordinate everyone to figure that out.
I look forward to your final decision.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us and helping us wrap up a bunch of these cases. Without you, we would have had a lot more deferrals. So you have the chair's gratitude.
You're very welcome. Take care.
For whatever that's worth to you.
Cheers.
Have a good week. Okay, sorry, Mr. Blakely. We lost you mid sentence.
Yeah, it sounds, Mr. Chairman, like things have been satisfactorily resolved in my absence, and that the determination is made, as you just said, to go forward and offline arrange a satisfactory hearing date. And that's really all that I was concerned with.
Thank you. Just so you're aware, we lost a board member who had to sign off for pre-existing commitment, but we still have a quorum, so we are still free to act.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything left to say unless anyone has any questions for me.
Couple issues. You raised that you wanted the, your appeal reviewed for completeness from staff. Is that correct?
I wanted the chance, given the fact that there's been, I think, 1 year and 5 months more or less between the filing of the appeal and the current time. I'd like an opportunity for, in the presence of staff or whatever, but for Mr. and Mrs. Myers to review the application materials just to make sure that they are complete in terms of where they are now versus what they filed. I'm assuming they are, but I think given the passage of time, it would be prudent to give them that opportunity.
Mr. Bowen, has this application been reviewed for completeness?
There's a series of appeals filed, so it depends on which request you're referring to.
That's a very good question. Which Mr. Blakely, for the record, can you state which appeals you're representing? Do you know the appeals number or the parties?
I do, and if you will hang on just a minute. The appeals, one is by Donald Myers, and it's ZAPP 22-00004. And the other is an appeal application by Donald H. Myers and Mariah A. West Myers. And the appeal number is ZAPP 22-00007.
Yeah, so like at the moment we're talking with Mr. Blakely, we can recognize you after we're finished the conversation.
Sorry, are you guys on the same page, or do you have a difference in terms of what Mr. Blakely would?
No. Blakely represents us. The president of the BZA is out of the country at the moment, has coordinated with the executive committee of the BZA. BZA as well would like to appeal its appeal.
Do we
Mr. Blakely represent?
do we have anything authorizing you to represent to okay, well, then let's finish with Mr. Blakely and then we could address your concerns.
In answer to your question that I heard, I do not represent the BZA. I only represent Mr. and Mrs. Myers.
So you represent Mr. Myers and Mr. and Mrs. Myers?
I do, correct.
In these two appeals that you've cited? Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Bowen, do you feel that a further completeness check on these two appeals need to be conducted? What or why don't you give me your thoughts on what that ask?
Generally speaking, every appeal that comes to county staff for consideration by the BZA is reviewed in conjunction with the zoning administrator and the county attorney's office. So I would like the opportunity to confer with them for their thoughts on the completeness.
Sure. That's fair.
And I believe, Mr. Chairman, as I said, given this is a very unusual, I would assume, situation, and as a consequence, I think the applicant, again, in the company of staff or whatever, should be permitted a chance to review it as well. To make sure that all of the information that they filed is actually there.
So,
Mr. Bowen, is that what would typically happen?
In terms of our involvement?
Yes. Would you typically review an application with the applicant for completeness? Or how does that, I don't know how this would normally work.
Depending on the type of application, any use permit or variance application, we do the completeness check and communicate directly with the applicants. Appeals are a little bit different. You know, as I said, they generally involve the county attorney and the zoning administrator. And so completeness check comments may come from me or they may come from that office. I would say probably in the vast majority of cases, they would come from me ultimately.
And so can we expect you to, in your office, to do a review of the completeness? And if something is missing or not complete, you can be in contact with Mr. Blakely and somehow communicate back and forth with what the completeness is, because they're concerned that they want to, I think they want to know what is exactly in their appeal.
Yeah, as the applicants, I think it is appropriate for us to potentially offer the opportunity for that. Because this is an unusual circumstance, as you mentioned, I would like the opportunity again to review with the county attorney as well as the zoning administrator.
Ms.
Mr. Chair,
Mellis.
Mr. Chairman, a question for Mr. Blakely. Are you concerned that the materials that you've submitted are not complete? Or are you concerned that you have not met all the requirements for an appeal?
Well, first of all, I was not representing Mr. and Mrs. Myers at the time the appeals were filed, but I am concerned not that the appeal applications are incomplete, but that perhaps some of the materials that they filed are not accurately, are not completely reflected in those files. So I would, given the unusual circumstances, I would like the opportunity for them to review the materials to make sure that it is complete.
Is there any reason they can't simply file their complete package?
Well, I think they have filed their complete package, but they had 30 days from the determination letter to file their appeal, so they can't just refile their appeal. But to the extent, I'm going to interpret what Mr. Blakely is asking for our permission to amend their appeal, I would be willing to grant that.
Mr. Chairman, particularly, do you expect that there will be a staff report on the appeal?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so we would like the
Mr. Bowen?
opportunity to respond to that.
Yes, I think that would be our the
So-
normal appeals process.
Yeah, I think, yes, so perhaps you're asking procedural question on how appeal actually, after it's filed, what happens? Because I can just say from our standpoint that, the staff prepares their case and the applicant prepares their case, and the applicant's case, be it a summary with exhibits or whatever is included in that staff report, so that both sides of the appeal come to us in one package. So there has to be some coordination for that to happen.
Right, I understand that, but what I was asking was the opportunity to amend the appeal if necessary, because there have been, it's been the passage of a year and 5 months, as well as to have the opportunity to respond to any issues that are raised in the staff report. If there are new issues that the staff perceives that we don't, or that we didn't, then I would like the opportunity to address that, so that we have that in advance of the meeting, so that we have the opportunity to address that in writing.
So part of this, you're going to have to work with staff, but the answer is yes. You would have access to the staff report before you appear at the hearing, for sure.
Right.
And as they would have access to whatever materials you're going to bring.
Right. Mr. Bone, I assume that for any appeals, the process would be that the staff generates their position with the county attorney's office, then the appellant would generate their response to that, and all of that is bundled up for the BZA.
Yes, in many ways, I would say the appeal process works similarly to the use permit and variance process. Our staff report would typically be published approximately a week before the hearing. And that would be for, both the applicants as well as just for general public review placed online for, review by anyone really who's interested in the matter. And at that time, we would be open to receiving supplemental materials as we do with BZA use permit and variance requests as well.
Mr. Blakely, is that sufficient?
The question you're
I would
asking,
still prefer
amending.
the opportunity to respond in writing, but as long as I see it, I guess that is satisfactory. But I would like the opportunity in effect to file, because the staff is seeing our submission and they're responding in writing to that. I would like in effect the opportunity to respond to the staff in writing, in effect a reply pleading, if you will, since the staff is responding in writing to ours.
Yes.
I would like the chance to respond in writing to them.
And from what I understand from what Mr. Bowen has just said, that their briefing, as my language, would be posted a week prior to any hearing, so that you would have a week to then post your response, and then we would have the hearing.
Okay, all right. Mr. Chairman, I have one other question, which is Mr. Bowen referred to consulting with the county attorney's office, and the question in my mind is, it was my understanding that the board had engaged its own counsel, Martin Krim, and I just wonder, under those circumstances, whether the county attorney should be involved in this process or whether it should be Mr. Krim.
So Mr. Krim represents the BZA as a board, not the county, and you're appealing a decision from the county, so the county is your adverse party.
I see. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so my sense, right, so my sense is as I think is clear, or this board's sense, which I think is clear from our resolution, is that this board needs to act on any appeals filed. This appeal was filed back in May of 22, and I believe, I don't have the exact, the Virginia code requires this board to take a hearing within 60 days of when the appeal was filed. Although there is case law that says that 60-day time period is not determinative. Nonetheless, this board, I believe, should act as quickly as is possible in order to get this hearing, as we're over a year from the filing. And so I would like to turn the discussion to timing. It seems that, well, let me ask Mr. Blakely, what is your hopes and desires for a timing of a hearing?
Well, Your Honor, not Your Honor, I'm sorry.
I got promoted today. I like it.
Yeah, that's sort of reflexive on my part. You know, unfortunately, I either use it with the judge or with my wife, so it's one of the two. I think, speaking for Mr. and Mrs. Myers as well as for myself, we'd obviously like to get this resolved as expeditiously as possible. But returning to your previous comments in terms of trying to coordinate an appropriate hearing date, I think the sense of what you were saying is that we should kind of coordinate offline and agree on a hearing date. And if we could do that, I think perhaps that would be best, rather than trying to spend time of the board working on that this evening.
So and this is off the cuff, and my colleagues here can chime in. My sense is that we should motion to put this on the schedule this on the December docket, with the understanding that we are going to coordinate to try and get it off of the December docket earlier, right? So our Mr. Bone, do you know the December date?
December 13th.
So I would, at this point, let's get this on the agenda for December 13th, with the understanding that I will coordinate with parties to try and determine a date to not have it on the December meeting, because I think that this will be pretty lengthy, that there might be more than one appeals involved. And as Ms. Freshman had said, it's probably going to be over an hour. And so I don't think any of the parties would like to have this when we're hearing another 10 or 15 cases.
So I would.
One second, Mr. Blakely.
I would like this scheduled for a date certain for the parties to tell us if they can't meet a date. In other words,
I think that
I don't want to leave it. I don't necessarily expect that we would have a hearing on December 13th.
Right.
But I would like to hear from the parties why, that they need a deferral to a different date. In other words, I don't.
I see.
I don't want to leave
So,
it open-ended so that
why don't
one
we?
party says they can't meet until June, right?
Yeah. So why don't we schedule this? Why don't we put this on the November?
December.
No, let's put this on the November docket,
Okay.
so that we can have a scheduling conference, right? So come November, we'll have a full board. Everyone will be here, and we could start discussing dates on the November 11th.
November 15th. I do know for a fact that the zoning administrator is not available on that date, so.
That's fine, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's fine.
As a placeholder.
I think no one is going to have any expectation. We're not going to hear the case, but we want it on the schedule for scheduling purposes only.
Understood. Okay.
Is that fair?
Hear from the parties as to what.
Or more or less a check-in to see what dates
Yeah,
would
okay.
work.
With the understanding that we're going to pick a date in December.
Sure thing.
Is that
I
fair?
think that makes sense for us.
That's acceptable to me, Mr. Chairman. Since my clients are present with you in the room, I would ask you to see if that's acceptable to them as well, since I can't directly confer with them.
Okay, well,
Do you need to confer with your attorney? Can you do it by phone? Because we really can't be a go.
I think that's probably accurate.
We can wait till you confer with your attorney.
Let me give them a separate phone number because I need to. I can't have them call in on the same phone that I'm talking to you on. So,
This is Myers.
This is extremely awkward. Mr. Chairman, is it possible for you to pass on to them a phone number, because I have no way of
They can
getting
hear
it
you.
to them.
They can
Oh,
hear
they
you.
can, okay. So the phone number is 703-256-8224.
That's okay.
I would like to have the opportunity to speak.
You will. You filled out a speaker slip, and we will call you as soon as we're done with Mr. Blakely. Then, any objections to that?
So why are we here? We were here because there's a speaker slip,
Yes,
multiple speakers.
multiple speaker slips.
Okay, we have multiple.
Mr. Bowen, what's the next speaker slip?
I believe that would be Mrs. Myers.
There, Mrs. Myers, please come on down. And I'm sorry, Mrs. Myers, remind me, you are, who are you here for, and do you have authorization to speak for them? Okay,
A letter. Can I approach and just
please.
give this to you?
Ask.
Mr., can you
Give it-
hand it to Mr. Bowen? Because he's gonna want a copy as well.
So thank you again for, it's a late evening for you. Thank you very much for the resolution, sincerely. I'd like to just note that I'm speaking in my capacity as the current corporate secretary for the Boston, Virginia Square Civic Association this evening, not in my personal capacity. And I'm a member of the executive committee, past president, past vice president numerous times. I'm speaking this evening because our president is out of town. So he has authorized me to speak. And I'll just go ahead and read the first page. It's fairly brief. You can see this. Dear Chair Kaplan and members, I'm writing to inform you that the Boston, Virginia Square Civic Association, BVSCA, continues to seek a hearing related to the Board of Zoning Appeals, the BZA, appeal application number ZAPP 22-00005, submitted May 13th, 2022. This is with respect to determinations set forth in the zoning determination letter dated April 13th, 2022, or the zoning determination letter in quotes, authored by Ms. Arlova Vaughn, the Arlington County Zoning Administrator, to the Arlington County Department of Environmental Services, the DES, with respect to a 6.11 acre property, number RPC number 15-04-067, located at 1425 North Quincy Street, commonly referred to as the Quincy site. BVSCA's appeal application was canceled on May 19th, 2022 by Mr. Blake Bowen, Principal Planner, Board of Zoning Appeals Coordinator, before the application could be reviewed and heard by the BZA. As per the BZA resolution of September 12, 2023, which is Appendix A, BVSCA was wrongfully prevented from appealing before the BZA, and BVSCA seeks a full hearing. Please contact me, Jim Rosen, at my email address below related to the scheduling of the meeting, and I, or a designated member of BVSCA, will represent BVSCA in its appeal. As I am currently traveling, this letter will be, has been delivered to the BZA by a representative of the BVSCA Executive Committee at BZA's regularly scheduled meeting of October 11th, 2023. Sincerely, James Rosen, BVSCA President, and he provides his email address. Also attached is the Appendix B. I will not read this, but it's from the September 12, 2023 BZA hearing minutes, I guess. So
Yes.
I'll read that for you.
Thank you. So you obviously heard our previous discussion on behalf of the Boston, Virginia Civic Association. Is that an acceptable plan that we're going to put this on the docket for a November scheduling date? So hopefully on our November hearing, we'll all be able to get our calendars out and pick a date for this appeal.
Yes, so I think that the main concern would be that this not be delayed or prolonged further.
With, right, our intention would be to have this hearing in December. We require 14 days for notice. So if on November 15th, we all say November 29th, as long as it's within 15 days and the county feels that they have enough time to prepare and all the parties feel that they have enough time to prepare, we're going to try and get this scheduled as soon as I think practical for us.
One of the questions is, are the facts of this case the same, and can we hear this all on the same night? That's from our standpoint, and I'm not sure how we determine that, but it seems like the facts of the situation are all the same. It's just that appeals are coming from different people. So scheduling everything on one night,
I think, is the plan.
Right.
Would
We
be the
would
plan.
agree.
Okay.
Right. So, and then I would just echo what Mr. Blakely said about the completeness and the availability to see the information so that there is nothing that has been lost or discarded or just somehow not available. So that would be something that BBSCA would be interested in.
And right, and so your organization can work with Mr. Bowen, who I'm sure will be happy to help with that process, because he does this regularly.
Correct.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And I guess the question would be communications, since this is a very unusual case or situation. What do you recommend?
So we're going to make a motion to have all the parties come back in November to confirm.
To confirm for
schedule
schedule.
date.
Right, but she's asking, so the parties are asking to work with Mr. Bowen, and I'm going to read that you are not entirely comfortable working with Mr. Bowen, and you're asking what we should do about that?
I
hope not. I hope that's.
I would say that it would probably be better if there's an independent party, given the nature of the letter, but.
So our role, right, so we are prohibited by law from having ex parte communications.
That makes
right?
sense, yeah.
And so, we, because we're going to be ruling on this case, we don't want to be involved with communications, that may or may not come before us, right? So if we were to sit in on communications, we would be privy to information that probably wouldn't help us judge this case fairly.
Sure, understand, totally
So
understand.
I don't have a good, I don't have a good solution for that issue.
So
And
you will prepare your appeals material, and the county will prepare their appeals.
I imagine most of this will be in, over email, right?
Yes, I would imagine. Yes.
So, the parties need to be able to prepare their own appeals. We're not part of that process.
Sure, understood.
And so you will have to figure out a way to work. We can't step in and find a solution on that.
And right, and you're able, if you have meetings with staff, you can bring whomever you want to those meetings. Is that, if Ms. Myers would like to bring a third party with her, she's free to do that. Is that correct?
Yeah, generally we would take no issue on whoever requests the meeting, can have whichever, colleague
Right.
along with them.
Okay, yes, so yes, we're interested in completeness and timeliness. And I think that's it, unless you have any additional questions for me.
I think we're starting to formulate a plan here to get this, and
So we have 3 appeals right now.
we have 3 appeals right now. That's correct.
Mr. Chairman, could I be recognized for one final comment?
Yes, please, Mr. Blakely.
I had the resolution that you approved in September called for the zoning administrator to forthwith transmit to the full
Yes, sir.
BZA all papers concerning outstanding appeals that had been filed during a specified period. Have you received those records?
I have. Yes, sir.
Oh, you have? Okay.
I have. Yes. The board has.
Okay.
The whole
Thank
BZA
you.
has.
Thank you.
Okay.
So just one last
That
question.
was my only question.
Excellent.
So the next step
Ms.
is
Myers.
somebody will get in touch with, in this case, Mr. Rosen, about scheduling.
I am hoping you will get in touch with Mr. Rosen and inform him that we will put this on as a scheduling item on our agenda for November 15th.
Okay, so it's our, okay.
Yes,
So you should appear.
you're appearing on their behalf. We're gonna rely on you to inform them of this appearance.
Okay, all right. Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Mr. Bowen, do we have any additional speaker slips?
We do not have any additional speaker slips.
Did Mr. Blakely and Mr. Myers have any additional items to raise? No, please.
I do not, Your Honor. I don't know if Mr. Myers or Ms. Myers do.
I do.
Okay, before you begin, I'm going to caution you that this board will not accept any personal attacks against anyone.
Fine.
We are all here volunteers, and it's 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, the matter before us is scheduling an appeal, so that's the topic you want to speak
Yeah.
to.
All right, I will do my best to exercise self-control.
Because we are happy to adjourn without taking action on this and deal with this at another time.
I don't follow.
If you are unable to exercise self-control.
Fine.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I would like to be clear. I will be the point person to make sure that the documents that you received, at least that you just said that you received from the zoning administrator, which by the way, under Title 15.2, Section 2311A, should have been provided promptly after the appeals were filed. I don't know whether you're familiar with that
I am
statute.
familiar with that.
We understand
Okay.
the situation.
So I'm glad to hear that those materials were received, but the county board, through its staff, has had 3 opportunities to provide those materials. And in each case, basically, they've been out of order and incomplete 3 times. So I guess that's why it is that I would like, as Craig has already communicated, to look at those materials in advance of whatever it is, the process that will be associated with leading up to this hearing.
Yes, and as we just ironed out this process because I have not handled an appeal during my time on the board. And so we have just discussed that just as in almost any case that this board hears, the materials will be posted on the BZA's website at least a week prior to the hearing. And then you will have that opportunity to see the documents at least 1 week prior to the.
I guess I would say a week is not going to be sufficient time. If you've gotten the materials, you know how voluminous they are.
So you know what your materials are.
Yes.
Right. So are you worried about us posting your materials?
No, I'm worrying about that gentleman not handling them in the proper manner.
So you have your materials, and what will be posted will be the county staff's response and their arguments for their side.
To be clear, what I'm trying to establish is that what you apparently already now have is in fact comprehensive and in the proper order. The county has had 3 attempts to do that, and they have not succeeded.
So your attorney, when he produces your briefing for us, can give us all of that material that in your briefing. So if you're concerned about us not getting your application materials, you could include that in your response so that we will get it from you and the county.
So you want to sort of take something that's yay thick and double the size of it, is what you're saying?
Well, it's your material, so you will be submitting it. The county won't submit your material.
I understand that, but
Mr. Blakely,
you had raised the question earlier about sort of the integrity of the appeal process. And so you wanted to have the materials that were actually submitted in mid-May 2022. Did I misunderstand that?
I'm not sure what you're referring to. You're going to submit your case and your appeals material, and the county will submit their material.
the county's going to submit their materials first, and then you're going to have an opportunity to respond to it. If the county, I'm sorry, please don't interrupt me. If the county, if you feel that the county's response is incomplete, they will have theirs available prior to yours, and you are free to respond to that as well.
So you all think that you're going to be able to get through all these materials in a matter of a couple of days?
We
already have the materials. We have a lot of.
we have a lot of them, but we get delivered before every hearing, a stack of, this is probably a light week, but we get hundreds of pages that we make it through for our hearing. And as you've sat through the hearing, we're all asking in-depth questions about these cases. So yes, I think we would get through it.
Are you arguing for a later hearing?
No, what I'm suggesting is I would like to know that the materials that you have today are in fact complete and in the proper order.
But the materials we have today are not necessarily the materials that will be final for this appeal.
Yeah, which raises again the point of, so that means you're going to have a very narrow window of time.
And if we need more time,
Then
will
we know
defer
how to
the
ask for it, right?
I mean, that is the appeals process.
Mr. Blakely, do you have anything you would like to add to this discussion?
The only thing I would say, Mr. Chairman, is that I believe that reasonable people can work this out.
Yes.
And we can resolve the issue both about reviewing the documents to make sure that they are complete, correct, and in the proper order. And that, if necessary, I mean, we may, if the county documents are only filed a week before the hearing, it's possible we may need some additional time to respond. But I believe that given the willingness of the board to accommodate this request, and frankly, I would want to extend my thanks to the board for its willingness to act and give us the opportunity to appear before it and argue these appeals in a substantive way. But given that, which I think is a tremendous sign of good faith on the part of the board, I think we should be able to work this out. I think Mr. Meyer's concerns are legitimate, particularly given, the experience that we've had about being wrongfully denied an opportunity to appear before the board. But I believe that given the good faith that the board has shown in being willing to schedule these for a full hearing, and given some reasonable, having seen the board in action, I believe this can be worked out as reasonable people. So I believe the issues that Mr. Myers has raised are legitimate, but I think they can be resolved.
And Mr. Blakely, please feel free to reach out to our attorney, Mr. Krim, who can provide you with the documents that we received of the appeals in this case as well, which might go to assist with these concerns. I believe, and Mr. Bowen can speak up, but I believe these are all basically public documents that are FOIAble. So there would be no, confidential or any information that our attorney couldn't just provide you what we have received from the county.
I think
Yes,
that
Mr. Kaplan,
that would be
I agree
very
with that.
helpful.
Thank
That
you.
would be very helpful. Yeah.
Right, and I'll follow up with Mr. Krim to let him know that that request is coming, and in fact, I will send him just the documents that we're talking about now.
Great. Well, I really appreciate your assistance on that, Mr. Chairman.
Is there anything else we need to address before we move on?
Yeah, at least one other item. I too would
Sure.
also like to take a moment. Obviously, I wish you had done this, 17 months ago, but I very much appreciate that you are doing it now. So I want to go on record as having said that as well. The last thing I guess I want to say, believe me, there are a lot of other things I'd like to say, but this is not the time or the place, is the fourth of the appeals was filed by Marie Shum Brady. Are you familiar with that name?
Yeah.
Okay. I tried to reach her this morning to see whether in fact she would like to pursue her appeal as well. The key characteristic of both the BVSCA, and this is just by way of background, and Marie Shum Brady, is they're both contractual parties to the deed of covenant that applies to what is now referred.
So I'm sorry, we don't want to get into the details of this case because this case will be before us and it wouldn't be fair to the county because the county's
all
not
right.
represented.
My only point is basically
let me short circuit. And I don't remember if Ms. Shum Brady.
Yes.
The BZA's resolution was not dated in terms of they had to appear in October. If they would like to appear at some future time, they are free to do so.
Right. Okay. And then the one last question, just in terms of kind of the logistics, and I think you've already sort of taken an approach that will accommodate what I would characterize as, I'll say, the complexity of this matter, although, well, I won't go beyond that. But my understanding is with something like this, the appellant is given, about 20 minutes of time to make the presentation?
So it obviously, because of the fact that we're dealing with the common facts associated with all of the appeals.
Okay, so why don't you come up with a proposal in November and we can address that in November? So work with,
Well, my proposal is, and
well, I don't, but like I said, the county is not ready to address that. And so now having this discussion, they'll be ready to address this in November. So I think it would be unfair if you make a proposal now.
My only point is, it obviously makes sense for the convenience of your time, my time, everyone's time, to basically have this be a single hearing.
Yes, in fact, why don't we have Mr. Blakely work with the county attorney's office to try and come to some agreement with a proposed timetable, and then you could propose a joint agreement to us. Is that objectionable by anyone?
You asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Blakely, does that sound reasonable? Mrs. Myers?
It does. It does. It does.
Mr. Bowen, do you think that, I mean, I know the county attorney's not here, but I think that that's probably a fair ask.
I can't fully speak for the county attorney, of course. It doesn't strike me as especially unusual. And I think it's fair to ask them for that opportunity.
I'm sure the county attorney doesn't want to have to argue this case 4 times. Just
perhaps, yeah.
Right. Okay, so let's try and get the parties to all work, maybe through Mr. Blakely, and then we can get agreement from anyone else who shows up in the November hearing on kind of what the format of this appeals were. If any party feels like they need additional or less time, we can entertain that in November. Excellent. I was going to start working on that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Blakely. And I'm sure you will follow up with Mr. Krim.
I will. Thank you.
There's a gentleman in the back. Is anyone else waiting to be heard? Okay, thank you.
So let's try this. The Board of, I'm just
Yes,
putting this out here
please.
as a draft. Board of Zoning Appeals moves to schedule a hearing
Well,
on,
You would move for the,
I'm-
you would move for the BZA to
I
schedule
move- I'm
or move for the BZA to add to
Or-
the November.
or the, okay, you're good.
I don't mean to
BZA hearing.
take you over.
No, I'm add to the BZA hearing November 15th. Is it a scheduling hearing for the 2 Meyer appeals?
Yeah, I mean, should we call it a hearing or a conference? I'm not sure it
Scheduling
matters.
conference on the 2 Myers appeals and the BVC SCA appeal.
Yes.
To leave open the possibility of, again, the 4th appeal as well.
Well,
If
we can't address.
Yeah,
that
so
tonight,
if the 4th appeal shows up at the time, then
but November.
we will figure out whether we should hear them after this or before. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
I move for the. Getting late, isn't it? I move for the, I move for the BZA. That's weird.
I move that the BZA,
I move that
that we,
the BZ, that we.
I would do that the BZA.
You prefer the BZA?
Yeah. I mean, I would normally put this in the form of a resolution, but we're not going to spend the time to write a resolution.
I move that the BZA schedule a hearing conference, a scheduling conference.
Scheduling conference.
I move that the BZA, I'm just going to say this out loud. I move that the BZA schedule a scheduling conference at our hearing on November 15th for the 2 Meyer appeals and the BVSCA appeal.
Do you want to
spell that out? Boston.
No, do you want here? Let me just give you the numbers. Right, ZAPP.
We don't have one for the.
We do.
For Boston.
It's
5, right. So we're here for 4, 7, and 5.
0, 0, 0. All right, so I'm for the, so it'd be for the following appeal, for the following 3 appeals.
Yes.
Okay. And that's going to be VAPP 22-0004.
I have 4 zeros, 4, 7, and 5.
And 0005 and yes, 40007
That,
for the November 15th, let's see, on November 15th.
should we say for the purpose to set a date certain for the appeal?
For
To set an appeal hearing date?
setting an appeal
And other logistics as required.
date and other logistics as required. So this would show up on our agenda as a scheduling conference? That'd be just asking staff, scheduling conference?
Yeah, we could work to get the language to match your expectations of what. I'm not sure that we would need to advertise for a public hearing in terms of a scheduling
Nothing will be
conference.
decided, right?
Yeah.
Right. But I think it would be good to have on the agenda, though.
Yeah, we can add it to the online agenda as
But
well
it
as the
doesn't
one
need
that's
to be-
printed for your.
I don't think
records.
just a conference, we're not deciding, we're not hearing anything, right? So I don't think it would have to be advertised. And I would ask the parties to put this at the end of the agenda because I don't think it would be fair to make applicants here for a use permit or a variance wait for us to go through this.
Any
Mr.
objections? to
Any
that?
objections from anyone involved? Mr. Blakely?
Given my brothers, I'd rather have it first, but I think I certainly understand the logic behind your suggestion, Mr. Chairman, so I'll agree to it.
Thank you. No,
It's not a.
we don't need to advertise a scheduling conference because we're not deciding anything in November. When we hear the appeal, it will definitely have to be advertised. Mr. Vaughn, is this all pretty acceptable from your view? I know you don't have the county representation here.
Yeah, I agreed that nothing I say is absolutely definitive until we speak with the county attorney and the zoning administrator. As I mentioned, the approach that's being outlined, I think generally makes sense.
No,
as a
objection.
first impression, yes.
Great. I don't want to railroad anyone here. I want to move through this as quickly and less aggravation as possible.
Number 15. So the motion is I move that the BZA schedule a scheduling conference at our hearing on November 15.
Docket a scheduling conference?
There we go. Docket a scheduling conference at our November 15th hearing for the purpose of setting an appeal hearing date and other logistics as required for the following 3 appeals. And that would be the 00004, the 0005, and the 0007.
Yep, 4, 5, and 7. Yes.
That's my motion.
I think that is as good as we're going to get at 10:25 at night.
So I just need a second.
Second.
Alice Clark.
A motion made by Ms. Malice, seconded by Ms. Clark for the purposes of scheduling docketing a
Scheduling
conference between the parties for the 3 listed appeals. I will call the roll. Ms. Malice.
Aye.
Ms. Clark.
Aye.
Mr. Chair. Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, members of the board.
Thanks for the parties' patience in waiting till the end here for their opportunity to be heard. I believe this concludes all of our business today, and hearing no other person who wants to be heard, I will adjourn this meeting with my fake gavel.
Mr. Kaplan, we do have one other item under other
We do.
business.
Yes, so the board, I asked unanimous consent to push the minutes from September to November.
Beyond that, one additional item.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Hearing no objections to pushing the approval of the minutes. Yeah, well, I thought that that's what he was. Mr. Bowen, what's the additional item?
Hopefully it's pulled up on your screen, the 3rd bullet point under other business. I'm not sure if the BZA members are aware of the decision rendered by the Virginia Supreme Court in the matter of Berry versus the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors. So for informational purposes, and this is perhaps an issue that should be discussed with Mr. Krim, the county board is planning to re-ratify all of the approvals that it made for approximately I believe it's for the BZA, it would be 15 hearings that occurred during COVID that were done all virtually. And those decisions, could be subject to debate whether or not they were valid. The county board at this time is planning to re-ratify all the decisions made during, I
That
believe.
the BZA made,
No, that the county board made.
county board made.
So, you're by no means compelled to follow the county board's example, but for informational purposes, the county board is planning to take those actions. So if you are interested in following the county board's lead, perhaps as I suggested, Mr. Krim can advise if that would be appropriate for you. But yeah, the county board is planning to do
Or-
that.
How many
And
cases are they talking? That's a lot.
for the county board, it's quite a few cases. For you guys, I think it's over 100.
Oh.
Does-
Yeah, so it's
Does,
It's gonna be 1,000 for them.
right.
right, but we can do that as one fell swoop.
It's one motion. We have to.
Depending on, I can imagine different scenarios. And again, I think Mr. Krim could probably advise, on the potentialities here.
Thank you. Yeah.
But yeah, from staff purposes, we would have to re-advertise everything. We'd have to placard. We would potentially have to resend out all of the mailed notifications. So it would entail quite a bit of work. And then it's quite a bit of time commitment for you because we would post and issue and print staff reports in all likelihood.
How much work is that going to require for staff?
Quite a bit, I would say. We don't know what we don't know yet, but just the general logistics of it seem pretty daunting.
So let's just talk, I know it's late, but let's just talk about this for a minute. Of those applications that we adopted, what percentage do you think are built? This is it's a little different, but because the county board, passes zoning ordinances, they pass intangibles.
And just to short circuit you, right? There is either a 1 or a 3-year expiration date on it anyway, right? So are we, this is a hype, this is not for Mr. Bowen. Are we as a group concerned, right?
So what we're guarding against is somebody saying our decision was illegitimate,
Because it was virtual.
right?
I believe that is
That's
the
crux of that
general
case.
fear that could,
Yeah.
motivate you to re-ratify, or the general motivation, yeah.
Yeah, Ms. Malice, this is a question for us to have with Mr.
Yeah.
Krim, not in this public forum. So
Yeah. Well, thank you.
thanks for
alerting
raising that.
It's a daunting prospect because it's quite a few
you have a
cases, over 100 that we're
recommendation?
aware of.
Did-
Yeah.
Do you come with a recommendation from the county attorney? Obviously, we have our own attorney, but
The county attorney, we have not had any discussions about what should happen, just about what the county board is doing.
and no, it's more county staff. I think it's more county staff than BZA, or it's more the county board than BZA. Right, I got you. Yep. Right. I think it's a headache for county staff. If anything gets challenged, under the Supreme Court ruling, it's just a lot of work and hassle for county staff that we could head off by creating lots of work for county staff. Right.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's a discussion we should have at a future date. But like I said, we can raise that with our attorney and see what he thinks about it.
Barry versus the Board of Supervisors of Fairfax County, third bullet point.
Ms. Malice may have turned her mic off. Mr. Rissy, you're still with us.
Still here,
Country are you in, Mr. Rissy?
United States of America.
Are you?
I've
east
adjourned
of the
us.
Continental Divide?
So now having that additional item, I think we can adjourn, right? Nothing else? Okay.
Just